Am I the asshole? My mother-in-law stole my gift and I'm super hurt. My mother-in-law of 15 years asked me to lunch and finish Christmas shopping. She wasn't sure what to get my 9-year-old son. We met at the video game store. They were out of my suggestion. I told her of another game I had already purchased for my son but planned on sending it back to make it easier on MIL. Next door. I'm adding things to my cart for my kids. She is asking who they are for and pulling them out of my cart into hers. I nicely was like, if you keep taking the stuff I'm gonna buy, Santa's gonna suck this year. She didn't seem to care. As we are checking out, I say I have to go to Best Buy next door and get my daughter her big gift from my husband and I. A camcorder. My MIL is a hoarder of casino-gained merch, if you know you know, and said, I have some at home, I think, and I was very clear in my response. Thanks, but no thanks, I'm excited to get this for her. Mil. Shops alongside at Best Buy. Stands at checkout to completion while we talk about how my daughter has this number 1 on her list and I was excited to see her open it Christmas morning. 2 days go by. My daughter stays overnight at grandma's. When she came home, she was so excited to tell me that brother has 7 presents under the tree. She has 6 and Nana got her a vlogging camera. But we need your help with the memory card, Mom. Who does that? I texted her asking why in the world she would ever think that was okay. Her response, it's a kid's toy AS if that matters. And her son, my husband, he doesn't understand why I have an issue. Am I the asshole? Edit TOADD/clarify. I had never shopped with her before. The items she was removing from my cart were not make or break. More like I'm done shopping but I'm here in the store, so I grabbed some lil bonus Santa items. It never came to mind she would gift the camera before me. Never. Even when she was taking from my cart. It just wasn't even an inkling of something to be wary of to me, because who does that? Am I the asshole for getting my sister chocolate for Christmas after she hasn't put any effort into my gifts? Throw away because my siblings follow my main account. I, 18NB, am getting my sister, 15F, a chocolate box for Christmas this year because for years now she has not bothered with my gifts at all, Christmas or birthday. Usually she gives me stuff she's been gifted in the past like bath bombs or makeup which I can't use due to skin irritation and also feeling gender dysphoria when I wear makeup. She is well aware of this as I politely tell her when I open the presents. She doesn't have a job and therefore no income which she uses as an excuse despite the fact our parents give her quite a bit of money to buy people gifts for Christmas and birthdays. Last Christmas, she got our stepsister the dress and book she had asked for whereas I got an eyeshadow palette that I had seen her using the week prior and a notebook I had given her for school which she hadn't used. I thanked her for it but later reminded her that I couldn't use the makeup. She shrugged and said, well, at least I got you something. What upsets me the most is our dad has a whole thing about us getting gifts for relatives that have a lot of thought and meaning. I say us, but it seems this rule only applies to me. I get her the things she asks for every birthday and Christmas. I pay attention when she mentions wanting something in passing and make sure to get it for her when her birthday and Christmas come up. She doesn't. A few weeks ago, I did my Christmas shopping and I knew she wanted 2 specific posters for her room but decided because she has made little to no effort for me, I would get her a box of chocolates from Hotel Chocolate. I got a type of box she has said she likes in the past though just because I didn't want to be an utter jerk. This evening, the 22nd of December, we were having dinner and my sister mentioned she was going out tomorrow to do last-minute Christmas shopping. I said, are you actually going to get me something you've never owned this year? As a joke which I realize I shouldn't have. She said, what's that supposed to mean? And I mentioned how she never puts effort into any of my gifts where I always do. Then I said, well, as I always did, which was a bit of a dick move on my part. She asked me what I meant and kept demanding to know what I got her for Christmas despite me telling her it would ruin the surprise. Our dad chimed in and demanded to know what I got her, so I said, a chocolate box from Hotel Chocolate. She went off at me saying that she didn't want a chocolate box. She wanted posters and I responded, you never bother with my gifts. Why should I do the same? My dad is saying I need to go out tomorrow and my sister is calling me selfish and ungrateful. I feel quite childish and have apologized to her, but she doesn't care. I just want to know AITA for getting her a chocolate box for Christmas? Am I the asshole to tell the waitress that the hostess said we'd have to surrender our table at a certain time? We had just seen a movie in the city my husband and I were visiting, and we decided to get dinner. We didn't have reservations but asked the restaurant hostess if she could fit us in. She didn't think so, then said, "Well, I have this table but you have to finish in 45 minutes. That seemed doable, so we sat down. When the waitress asked if we wanted to see the dessert menu, I told her that the hostess had said we had to vacate the table in 15 minutes, and my husband blew up at me. "It's not your job to tell her that. That's her responsibility," he argued and went on, saying, "It's not your problem." I was aghast. I didn't want to be rushed through it if I did order dessert, and thought the waitress could check with the hostess and buy us some time. I also thought the waitress might not know what the hostess had said about needing us to leave at a certain time. The tables were close together and a solo diner was 3 feet from us. I was embarrassed that I was being loudly dressed down within his earshot for merely mentioning a fact. I mentioned the incident a few days later, and my husband was adamant that I was wrong to tell the waitress what the hostess asked, but he suggested I ask here. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my mom to stop letting my brother get away with stuff just because he's autistic? I, 18F, am the youngest out of 3 siblings. My oldest brother, 22M, has autism. He doesn't understand like everyone else does and is extremely smart in certain categories. Feelings are not one of them. He doesn't understand when he does something wrong, and when he doesn't get his way, things get out of hand. My father has been on my side for most of this. My brother, who we'll call Leo, always got his way. He has 1 cell iPhone, 3 iPads, a computer, a laptop, a PlayStation, Xbox, Wii, etc. I, on the other hand, have 1 iPhone, and that's it. When he gets angry, he smashes and breaks his stuff. We have had to replace electronics more than I can count. I tell my mom not to give in, but she tells me off. She always has the same excuse. Your brother is autistic, he doesn't understand. Or, when you grow up you can get a job and start a family, he can't. And yes, the family thing is true, but she shouldn't give in all the time. I tell her he's not going to learn or that he doesn't deserve it. I asked her for a monitor for my birthday, and instead I got books. She made up the excuse that we didn't have the money, but the same day she gets him a new iPad, which was over $1,500. I realized that that's the reason she said no, was so she could get him that on my birthday. Recently, my family has yelled at me for being inconsiderate and selfish for expressing how I feel. I don't know if I should stop trying to speak out and try to stop them from giving into his behavior. So, am I the asshole for wanting to be treated fairly? Am I the asshole for not putting my husband's name on gifts I bought on my own? Throwaway account because I don't want him to see this. I, 27F, have been married to my husband, 29M, for 3 years, and we've been together since we were 18 and 19. The first 2 years we had been together, when we were still pretty young and our relationship was new, we bought Christmas gifts separately, except in some rare cases. But when we got pretty serious, we started making gifts from the both of us to other people. Since then, he has not once helped me buy the gifts. That includes gifts for my family, our friends, but even gifts for his family. Occasionally, he would give me some ideas as to what the person would want, but that was still pretty rare, and the ideas he gave were most of the time very vague. And even when he gave me ideas, I was the one that bought the gifts and went Christmas shopping alone. I was fine with it at the beginning as I really enjoyed gift giving and finding the perfect ideas for everyone. But it's been 8 years of this, and it's getting pretty exhausting. I've also evolved in my career since we got together, and now have way less free time to spend buying gifts. So last year I asked before the holiday season if he could help this year, and we'd each buy some of the presents. Out of maybe 20 people we bought gifts for, he bought only 1. And he told me that he would take care of it until the very last minute, but eventually forgot. So I had to buy his sister and mother a present less than 24H before Christmas. After that, I told him that I now expected help because this could not happen again, as it was mentally and physically exhausting for me. So this year I bought half of the gifts and he was supposed to buy the other half. He didn't. Yesterday I spent 7 hours at the mall trying to find the rest of the gifts, and he was no help. I sometimes called him to ask if the person would like a gift, if they already had it, or what he thought, and he mostly said, "I don't know, maybe," and whatever. I also have to add that I'm 6 months pregnant, so this was extremely exhausting. When I got home, I was angry and tired, and while wrapping the presents, I decided that since he didn't help at all, I wouldn't put his name on the presents. Usually we write something like, "From Mary and John," not our real names, but I just wrote, "From Mary." Today, as we were packing all the gifts in the car to go to his parents' house, he noticed that his name wasn't on it. I explained it to him and said that he didn't help, so he didn't get credit for what I bought. He keeps saying that it's unfair and that I'm gonna make him look bad, and asks that I change it. I don't know if I should. Maybe this is petty, but I don't know what else to do. I've asked for help many times, and I'm just afraid he's never going to change. Should I put his name? Am I mean for this? How can I make him understand how much I need help? Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé he can't go to his relative's birthday party because we have commitments? My fiancé and I are less than 6 months away from our wedding. I have been doing the majority of the wedding planning because my parents are funding the entire wedding. It makes sense that I should be the primary communicator since my parents are the ones financing the wedding, but it has been exhausting to manage and coordinate myself, my fiancé, my parents, and my future in-laws. My parents are very organized and plan things in advance. I lean more this way too, while my fiancé's family tends to be very last minute. This has never been an issue until it became my responsibility to coordinate everyone. For context, the wedding will take place in the city where my fiancé and I live. My parents live about a 6-hour drive away, and my future in-laws live 2 hours away. One appointment we needed to schedule was our tasting with the caterer. This turned out to be much more complicated than I expected. We needed to ensure that my fiancé and I, my parents, my wedding planner, and the caterer were all available on the same day for this appointment. I wasn't sure if we could invite extra people or not, so my plan was to invite the in-laws after we scheduled if we could indeed include 2 extra people in the tasting. It turned out we could, so after confirming with my fiancé, parents, and myself that we were all available, I texted my in-laws to invite them. We secured the last available Saturday date, so there weren't any other options for the tasting unless my parents took time off work. My in-laws texted back saying that, as it turns out, there might be a family birthday party on that same Saturday. I told them that's unfortunate and that we would miss them at the tasting. They responded by saying no. My fiancé and I are expected to attend this party as well, even though there were no concrete plans yet. I explained to them that we had already scheduled the tasting along with a tour of our venue that day, which would be nearly impossible to reschedule. I was incredibly frustrated that they assumed we'd clear our schedules to attend something they invited us to at the last minute. Even if it were possible to reschedule this appointment, I told my fiancé that I am unwilling to face my mother's anger by telling her we need to reschedule. My mother would find a way to make this situation my fault, and having to be the one to communicate bad news to her is not something I'm willing to do to protect my mental health. My fiancé is now saying that I'm preventing him from attending this relative's birthday, someone who is important to him, even though he agreed to this tasting date and the birthday party hasn't even been finalized yet. Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé he either has to miss or go late to his relative's birthday because he committed to our wedding tasting? I suppose I could be the asshole because of my unwillingness to deal with my mother to reschedule, although in this situation, I don't think it's reasonable or worth it to jump the gun and tell my parents to reschedule when this hypothetical birthday party isn't even set in stone yet. Am I the asshole for refusing to celebrate Christmas several days late every year? I'll do my best to explain this in an unbiased way. For the last 10+ years, my family has agreed to celebrate Christmas late, sometimes over a week late, because my sister and my mom's side of the family generally celebrate with their extended families, and nobody on their end ever reciprocates the favor by celebrating late on account of us. For some context, ever since my sister got together with her significant other, she started going to their family's parties every Christmas, and year after year, she asks my parents to celebrate Christmas at a later date so she can be there to celebrate. Sometimes it's the day after Christmas, and sometimes it's days late or even in January. Never once has her significant other's family celebrated late so we could celebrate on time. Secondly, my mother's side of the family usually joins us when my sister is available, and they seem to go along with whatever my sister requests because they, too, have Christmas parties with their extended families. To their credit, one of my aunts hosted Christmas Eve at her house for years, but ever since my sister got into this relationship, even my aunt agreed to have our Christmas parties out of sync to accommodate my sister's requests. Now, my aunt has since sold her house, and my parents have been the designated hosts every year for the past several years. I've been speaking out against this for years. My stance is that we should celebrate shortly before Christmas or on Christmas Eve, or on the holidays themselves, not after. I say it's obnoxious that we have to celebrate late every single year while everybody else enjoys their holiday on time while we wait. Every time I take a stand, my father tells me I'm selfish and immature and that I'm being an asshole. Granted, I do not have children while my sister does. She is kind of the golden child of the family, and I'm kind of the screw-up. She has a good job and makes a lot of money, and she and her partner are millionaires, while I have been an underachiever for most of my life and don't have much to show for anything I've done. Still, I don't think that negates my point. If I'm being honest, it feels like my family doesn't want to have Christmas if my sister isn't there, and they bend over backward to accommodate her every year. I love my sister too, and she is a good person at her core, but I do think this situation is ridiculous, and I feel that I have a point in standing up for my family's Christmas while my father and extended family seem to get manipulated. My mother always agreed with me, but sadly, she passed away this past February, and now I'm without any support on this subject. Am I the asshole for refusing to celebrate Christmas late this year? Or am I just being a selfish asshole like my father says? Edits. My family and my mother's side of the family do not like having to postpone Christmas every year. My mother hated it before she passed this year. The rest of the family merely puts up with it. There is no reason, health, career, travel, why my sister has to delay Christmas every year. It is a choice and her preference along with her SOs only. My sister has been doing this long before she had kids. It started when her relationship with her so started. I am not trying to get my family to bend to my will or control the situation. I am seeking compromise. It doesn't have to be perfect every year, but it doesn't seem fair that my family has to take the back seat every year. I have spoken with my sister and my father about this as well as my extended family. No resolution has been made. There have been a lot of people coming at me taking cheap shots with name-calling and being generally abusive and disrespectful rather than giving a thoughtful response. If you're one of those people, please don't bother leaving your opinion. It is unwelcome from my end and ultimately makes you look like an asshole. Am I the asshole for calling out my stepdad's side of the family after they have disrespected me for over 10 years? I am female and I am 16, close to 17. My mother had me when she was 17, and I've never had my birth dad in my life for the whole 16, nearly 17 years of my life. Ever since I can remember, it's been my stepdad. For personal reasons, I'll call him Mark. He's been my only ideal father figure in my life, and I have called him Dad for 15.5 years. I will continue to call him Dad as me and him have a good father-daughter relationship even after he and my mom had my half-brother. He made sure I didn't feel left out in the family. But Mark's mother and sister have always made me feel like an outsider. I know I will be an outsider to them to begin with, but with Mark being my stepdad for 15.5 years, I thought they'd count me as family. But they haven't. They've gone from body-shaming me to not even bothering to get me a Christmas or birthday card or gift. But we'll get them for my half-brother, stepdad, and mom. Around this time of year is when my stepdad's mom does a Christmas dinner and gift exchange, and I did go even when I knew they'd make me watch everyone open gifts and cards, etc., and they all joked about it. But now I'm older, I think they do it because I am not blood. But for around 4 months, I've been missing family gatherings and BBQs because I'm not going to go and get disrespected and insulted for either eating or being on my phone or being too happy or helping out. And they thought I was being an ungrateful teen until they invited me, my stepdad, half-brother, and mom to her Christmas gift and dinner exchange thing, and I said I wasn't going. She asked my stepdad to pass the phone to me, and I put her on speaker so my mom and stepdad could hear what she was saying to me, and she insulted me straight up, saying something about my weight with the lines, "You're most likely going to eat everything." When she said that, something inside snapped, and I kind of went off on her, saying the lines of, "Why the hell are you commenting on my weight when you're 10 times the size of me? Why are you making me feel like I don't belong when I'm around you? You treat me like I'm a nobody, so the reason I don't want to come is because you don't like the idea about Mark bringing me up like his own daughter when I'm a stranger's child. Do yourself a favor and don't talk to me unless you grow up." I hung up and passed the phone, and my mom was laughing as she went through similar things to what I have, but it was only for the fact she kept me when my birth dad didn't want me. And my stepdad was surprised, but he knew I was right, and he said I wouldn't have to apologize. I do understand I shouldn't have said that in that way, but I was done with taking their crap for so many years. I just couldn't take it anymore. I've cut full contact and have been staying at my aunt's, my mom's younger sister, as they've been going to my stepdad's and mom's house to talk to me to make me apologize. But I haven't been there. Am I wrong? Am I the asshole for allowing adult kids to yell at boomer grandparents? Am I the asshole for allowing my 22-year-old and 24-year-old daughters to yell at their grandmother? My kid's maternal grandfather, my father, is declining rapidly with dementia. Christmas is right around the corner, and making plans has been a last-minute thing due to figuring out whether maternal grandparents would be able to host Christmas. In the previous 25 years, we have worked around the schedule of the paternal grandparents and sister-in-law. This is the first year that we informed my mother-in-law that we would be going to my parents on Christmas Day. In previous years, my mother-in-law has dictated that we come over on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day to her house. My husband called my mother-in-law on speakerphone, and she proceeded to yell on the phone that they always had to plan the holidays around us and that we are always an inconvenience. My daughters overheard what my mother-in-law said and proceeded to get very upset. When my husband tried to explain to his mother that his father-in-law has limited time, his mother responded with, "We're all dying." This caused an immediate reaction from both my daughters, where they yelled out hurtful things that my mother-in-law took offense to. No, my in-laws did not have plans yet. In actuality, they have spent the last week moving into a new house. Now my oldest daughter wants to cut off the paternal grandparents. My husband thinks my children and I are overreacting for getting upset. My oldest daughter just wants her father to say, "Yes, what grandma said was wrong, and your feelings are valid." But of course he did not say that. Instead, he told her to shut the F up. This caused an even bigger fight within our immediate family. Now my daughters and I aren't speaking to my husband, and they do not want to spend Christmas with their paternal grandparents. And my husband says this is all my fault. Yes, my husband triggered my adult daughter's ADHD rage. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's a real thing. Am I the asshole for having my 5-year-old daughter donate her toys before Christmas? This year, my daughter wanted to participate in our country's version of Angel Tree. I agreed on the condition that she would need to donate the same number of gifts from her toy collection as the ones we would be buying for the child. The toys my child donated would not be going to the child whose list we picked, but to the local daycare that had asked the community for used toy donations for their playroom. My daughter happily agreed to this condition and chose her 3 least favorite toys to donate. We purchased the toys and other items on the child's list and wrapped them together. We made an event of it, playing carols and having Christmas snacks. I wanted this to be a positive experience for my daughter. Yesterday, we had my family's Christmas celebration. My daughter was telling my mother, 52F, about donating her toys and getting to buy toys for another child in need. My mother was outraged that I forced my daughter to donate toys and accused me of being harmful to her by instilling a dislike for charity. My sister chimed in and agreed with my mother, saying I wasn't being fair by making my child donate her own things to participate in charity. I tried to explain to them that I was teaching my child that donation costs us personally, but the feeling of doing good for others is the reward. My child doesn't lack anything. She has already received more than 3 toys for Christmas, toys she preferred over the ones she gave away. I left the family gathering feeling very emotional and upset. My daughter is confused because she thought she was doing the right thing by donating her toys and is upset that I was crying on the way home. I'm pretty sure I did the right thing, but I was berated by my mother and sister for nearly an hour about my parenting choices. Am I the asshole for wearing a sweater my ex bought me? Buckle up. This is long. 10 years ago, my sister and I were living in an apartment in a bad neighborhood. Our next-door neighbor, I'll call her Cindy, became very good friends with my sister. We all grew very close. My sister sadly fell into drugs and went to prison about 2 years after meeting Cindy. Cindy and I did all we could to help her get clean, but prison was the only thing that worked. While my sister was incarcerated, Cindy and I grew closer and briefly dated. We lasted about 2 months before we amicably split. Part of the reason we split was because Cindy realized she was a lesbian, not bisexual as she had thought. We are still on good terms. My sister got out and she and I moved in together again. Cindy was still there for us and a big help. We got another great neighbor. I'll call him Ted. The four of us began to do gift exchanges around every Christmas. Nothing big, but a great little tradition. We have done it for the last 5 years since my sister got out. Ted isn't even our neighbor anymore, neither is Cindy. But we all still cross town to get together once a year. Cindy is still very close to my sister. They are best friends. Cindy has been dating a woman for a couple of years now, and it's getting serious. Cindy is thinking about proposing. I only mention this to show that Cindy is truly just a very good friend, with no romantic interest in me. My current girlfriend and I have been dating for about 6 months. We will call her Jane. She is insanely jealous of Cindy. She gets angry when Cindy comes to my place to hang out with my sister. One time, Cindy went to my mother's house to fix her washing machine. Jane and I stopped by hours after Cindy had left, and my mom casually mentioned that I could do laundry there again because Cindy had fixed the washer. Jane cried for over an hour and forbade me from washing clothes in the washer my ex fixed. She is just completely unhinged about her. A week ago we did the yearly gift exchange. Cindy got me a plain black sweater, but it is really soft. Seriously, the softest thing I've ever put on my body. I love it. When Jane found out Cindy gave it to me, she completely lost her mind. She wants me to get rid of it. But it's a really comfortable sweater, and I don't want to. I told her she is being ridiculous. Cindy and I dated years ago, for only a couple of months, and she is a lesbian. I'm refusing to get rid of the sweater. Am I the asshole for leaving without telling anyone? Update due to comments. I will leave a letter for them. I won't say anything bad in it, just that I'm leaving and I will be fine. Other people in my family are helping me too. POV. I have been living with my older sister, her husband, and niece 1-year-old for the past 2.5 years, and things have gone out of control. So, I have been living with them because they live in another country, and they invited me to live with them to complete my MBA here. I came and the first 6 months were okay. Since I'm on a student visa, I can't work, and they knew and told me I didn't need to worry about rent or food. Then, my sister became pregnant, and she changed for the worse, saying that I wasn't doing anything and that I needed to work unofficially somehow. And she told me that I could work at their company. Okay, I did that and worked at their company. What they weren't expecting is that I'm excellent. So I got promoted in a month and completely changed the department I was now in charge of for the better. But she was still on my case, saying I needed to do more because she was pregnant and couldn't do much, and my brother-in-law was working, as if I wasn't working and studying for my MBA, which, thank God, I was only getting as. Everything went to chaos after my niece was born. My sister was always screaming at everyone, making me babysit all the time, going grocery shopping because her husband was working, and always saying that I should be grateful because I had a place to live and eat. Then she and he, without asking me, agreed that when the baby woke up, I would be with her until my sister woke up. She would wake up at 10 to 11, because her husband would leave for work, and they stayed up all night taking care of her. So one day, when she was getting angry with me again, saying that if I didn't like living with them, I should just move, I said, well, if you pay my salary, I will gladly leave. Her response, we will never pay you because your salary doesn't cover what you eat and where you live. Oh yes, they really never paid me. They gave me a company credit card that they kept tabs on what and where I spent it. So, after her response, I got furious and told her, well then maybe we should add the amount you should have paid me for babysitting your daughter. So she threw me out, called my mother, who was on my side, and told her to never say anything like that again to me. 1 month later, guess what? She got pregnant again. So, I'm done being their housemaid and babysitter because I don't have time to study, I don't have a car because I don't have income, and I don't have any friends to go out with because I don't have time. So now my sister has her new baby on the 24th, and I called my uncle and asked for financial help, and he said he would help. I had to leave before they returned from the hospital, and I already had a place at my university to stay, and he would help me until I finally got my work license. And neither my sister nor my brother-in-law knows any of this. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for yelling at my 62-year-old parents right before the holidays? As a background, my husband and I, 35 M&F, bought this nice little waterfront house 2 hours away from the city 3 years ago with our savings. We spend about every other weekend there and will also spend a longer time during Christmas and summer break. We treasure it very much and keep it maintained and cleaned. We can't afford a house in the city and settled for a weekend home. It's on a septic tank and well water system. We are first-time homeowners and have always lived in the city. These are new to us, and we are learning about all these nice new responsibilities that come with homeownership. In the 3 years we've owned it, the water pump, hot water tank, and furnace all had an issue once, and we managed to get over it. It was stressful at times, but everything got fixed. My parents are 62. They've owned their current home for about 15 years, and quite frankly, that home is in pretty bad condition. I didn't know that as the home was bought about 3 years before I moved out, and while I visited them regularly after moving out, I didn't spend a lot of time there. I know my parents weren't very clean or handy, but I didn't know it was that bad. More on this later as this context is important. We live with my mother-in-law. Last year, we finally pulled the trigger to renovate my MIL's home in the city so our 2 kids can each have their own bedroom. It's a big renovation, and it means we will need to find another place to live for a while. My dad has always wanted a house with a bigger yard. He can't afford it. Before we bought our house, he had wanted us to use our income to help him qualify for a mortgage to buy a bigger home. I declined and said we are saving to buy a house ourselves. After we bought our house, he had jokingly asked me if we were interested in letting them live in our house for a while, as it is a pity that we don't live there full time. So, as we began to look at rental options in the city since we still need to work, I got this brilliant idea that I now regret every single day. My parents are interested in our house. Why don't we ask them to live in our house for a year, and we can stay in theirs? They agreed. We cleaned up the house more before they moved in and got new furniture. They held parties and invited their friends over. They also took a lot of pictures to show their friends their new cottage life. On the other hand, my heart began to sink the moment we started to move into their house. It's dirty and poorly maintained everywhere. Things are broken and not fixed. There is mold. They didn't even clean out their closet, so we have no place to put our clothes. Their kitchen and fridge were disgusting. We spent a lot of time just cleaning up the fridge and a few kitchen drawers/cabinets to put a few regular dishes and pots and pans to use. Their washer is not working. They haven't used their dryer. The bathroom is also disgusting. I was very embarrassed that my husband and MAL saw the condition. And then things got even worse. When they moved into our house, I explained to my parents the intricacies of the well and septic system. I explained how to use the garage door since their home never had a car garage. Cleanliness, or the lack of cleanliness, was the first thing we noticed. I reminded my parents to be careful. I am not trying to police them, but they really should try to keep the place reasonably clean. And then things just started to break. The water pump, which was brand new, failed because they used too much water from the well. The furnace broke. The garage door opener broke. The front door lock broke. The side entrance door jammed. When I ask them, they just say that they don't know what happened and that they didn't do anything wrong, except for the well system, as they had no excuses. And it's not just that. When things break, they also don't tell us and hide it from me. Their excuse is that they didn't want me to worry. But they are not fixing anything and the thing remains broken. So how exactly do I not worry, knowing that our house is deteriorating? I repeatedly emphasize to them that if something breaks, they need to let me know so I can make plans. They don't know how to fix it, fine. Call me, tell me. If my husband and I can try to fix it, we will try. If we can't, we will call a professional. I'm not a handyman either and rely on Google and YouTube for answers before calling someone. I also rely on Google to find a reliable contractor. None of these things I just know. I also have to bump into walls many times to find a solution. This weekend was the breaking point. My husband even made a joke about guessing what's going to break next and what my parents are hiding from us. It was the sewer line. It broke 2 weeks ago, and they didn't do anything about it and didn't tell me. We brought our kids over to see them before Christmas. We also made plans to go to the ski hill tomorrow. But now we are living in a motel nearby and waiting for a 24-hour plumber to come take a look, as the sewer line is completely backed up, and the sewage has leaked and made a puddle in the basement. For 2 weeks, we tried to maintain our composure last night, and the tipping point was when I said, "Okay, I really don't know what to do. This is beyond us. I have to call an emergency plumber, and it's probably going to be expensive." My dad had to chime in and said, "Why don't you go outside, open the septic tank, and see? If you just take a look, I'm sure it's not a big issue." At that point, both my husband's and my pants were covered in dust and goo from crawling in the basement to locate the leak. We hadn't eaten anything. All my weekend plans were gone. I don't know how our kids will go pee and poop when it's freezing outside. They decided to do nothing for 2 weeks, let the sewage continue to leak, and hide this from me for me to find out now. We both flipped out and yelled at them and asked him, "If you are so smart, why don't you go outside and fix it?" He said he didn't want me to worry. I asked him, "How exactly do I not worry? What's his proposed solution?" They said they don't know how to fix things. I said, "Do I know how to fix things?" We didn't unpack yet, so I called a motel nearby and booked a room, and we took our kids and left. I did call a plumber and am so grateful that he called me back at 11:30 and promised to send someone today to take a look. My husband has been telling me that everything will be okay. At this point, I am just still so upset. I want to just ask my parents to leave. We will find a rental during our renovation and give them their home back. AITA? Am I the a-hole for not spending Christmas at my dad's after he made upsetting comments about my deceased ex? Throw away because my step-siblings follow my main account and might show my dad. I, 18NB, have not always had the best relationship with my father. When I was growing up, he was emotionally abusive towards me and my sister but recognized that he wasn't a good father and genuinely put work into being a better and kinder parent. However, he can still be very argumentative at times. Our parents are divorced and the custody court order ended for me this year as I turned 18. However, it's still in place for my sister as she's still a minor. In October, my ex-boyfriend died very suddenly. He was only 18 and I was devastated. I still am. We were friends since we were 12 and dated when we were 16 to 17. We had an amicable breakup and still had a great friendship. When I came out as non-binary this year, he was the one who cut my hair into a style that made me feel more comfortable and was always incredibly supportive. I was not okay, and I'm still grieving him. My dad didn't really like my ex for reasons I don't know but helped me with my grief and supported me throughout the grieving process. As a result, I have not been entirely festive this year as my ex's birthday is the day after Christmas, and I'm dreading it because I know it will be a hard day. I have done my absolute best to be cheerful and to be excited for Christmas with my family. Yesterday, I met up with my ex's sister as we're good friends. And also I wanted to be there for her because I know that the grief I'm feeling is 10 times worse for her. I was a little late coming home as we talked for a while. When I got home, I apologized for being late, and my dad blew up at me. He told me he didn't want my excuses and he was fed up with me, moping over a dead boy who wasn't worth my grief. I was stunned and began crying as my dad went on this rant about how he never liked my ex because he was troublesome, and that me seeing his sister and the fact I was still grieving him was taking me away from what mattered the most, spending Christmas with my family. When he was done, he told me to clean up and get ready to go out for dinner with the family in 20 minutes. Instead, I went to my room, packed up my laptop and some of my clothes, and left for my mom's house. My dad called me demanding I go back because it's his time with me, but I reminded him the court order no longer applies to me and that I'm a legal adult, so I no longer have to see him. I told him that I'd maybe see him in the new year. He has been texting and calling nonstop. My sister called me earlier begging me to come back because she's sure our dad didn't mean it and he is getting more angry and yelling at everyone over tiny mistakes. I told her I was sorry, but no, I would not go back after what he said to me. Then she called me selfish and told me I'm ruining everyone's Christmas. I'm worried that I have genuinely made things worse for everyone by leaving, but I'm not going back until maybe the new year. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Spelling and grammar. Am I the a-hole for refusing to change our agreement around rent and bills? My girlfriend and I live together and split the rent and bills 50-50. We earn pretty similar amounts and both work full-time. My girlfriend has struggled with work anxiety in the past, which caused her to have frequent periods of sickness and move jobs fairly regularly. She's now in the job she has wanted to do for years and is happy so far. She has to also do a university course with her job, which she finishes next year. She mentioned that when she qualifies and doesn't have to worry about university, she might ask if she can go part-time and only work 3 days a week to try to ensure her work-related anxiety doesn't return. I asked if she'd be able to afford doing that, and she mentioned that we'd need to change how the bills are split. She said I'd need to pay a higher percentage, but I refused. I said she can't just stop full-time work and expect me to pay her bills. I mentioned if she goes to part-time, she will still have to pay her half of the rent and bills. She said she wouldn't be able to afford it, so I just said that she can't afford to go to 3 days a week then. She said I should be open to discussing it, but I just reiterated that the rent and bills split isn't up for discussion just because she wants to work less. She said I was being unfair and she was doing it so she doesn't end up off work sick anymore, but I just said she can do it if she wants, but she'll still have the same bills to pay. She said I was uncaring and should want to support her. Am I the a-hole for refusing to change how bills are split? Am I the a-hole for not lending my season ticket to my friend? My friend and I both have season tickets for one of the biggest football/soccer clubs in our country, where finding tickets for single games is really hard. As he is a seasonal worker outside our city, he misses the first few games at the start of the season. So, I asked him to give me his ticket for a game he couldn't attend so I could take my cousin with me. Of course, he agreed. It was a last-minute thing as well, so it's not like he had anyone else to give it to. And now we come to the past week where he asked for my ticket in return so he could go with his girlfriend. But I had the intention of going to the game. I actually was really looking forward to it as it was a big game as well, so I denied. He says I owed him for when he gave me his. Am I the only one who sees the difference between the two situations? Am I the asshole cousin sold car they hadn't even paid me for yet? Hi, all long story short, I had a car with a few issues and I upgraded to a lease brand new car, so having talked with my cousin and her boyfriend, they were keen on my old one to have for when my cousin passed her test as motivation, so I said to them if they wanted, I'd give them it really cheap, £500 to be exact, when I could have easily sold it for 3x times. I said they could take it and pay me when they were able to. The reg alone on the car is private and worth the £500. Anyway, months have passed and I've heard nothing. I didn't ever send the logbook in or officially change the details of the ownership, so it's still in my name. 2 days ago, I got a letter through from a parking fine company for the car over an hour away from where I live. It turns out they've sold the car to help them with financial difficulty but haven't paid me a penny or even kept me up to date with it. I've been told they've sold it and plan to pay me off when they're sorted financially after Christmas. Now on top of that, they've messaged today with the cheek to ask me if I could send them the logbook so the new owner can change the name on the car ownership. I haven't replied yet as we're an extremely close family overall, but this has wound me up. I'm planning to simply say no chance until I'm paid. I know I said listen, take it away and pay me when you can, etc., but as soon as they sold it, which I'd have had no problem with even though I sold it in the first place to them cheap, doing them a favor, I should have been the first thing they used the money to do regardless of if I needed it or not. Whatever problems this causes them isn't my issue, and I'll simply report the car stolen if I want, because I'm unaware of who is driving around in it now in another city. Am I the asshole, or should I be a little more understanding? Am I the asshole for asking my mother not to comment on the amount of food that I eat? Long story short, I used to have a pretty bad ED and am pretty okay now, but still have certain things that I ask people not to do or say about the kind of foods I'm eating, how much, etc. My mother knows all of this plus everything I've been through in my past and knows that I'm very active, so need to eat to keep up my energy. I'm home for the holidays and came in from a ski to make a snack, and she simply asked me, "What are you doing? Are you cooking more food?" Obviously, it's a fine question, but it bugs me when questions are asked with seemingly built-in assumptions. Anyway, I asked her if she could refrain from commenting on the amount or frequency of meals that I'm eating because it triggers some of my old thoughts and habits, and she flipped out on me and told me that it's my issue and that I don't have to be so defensive about it and she can say whatever she wants and it's not her problem if I'm triggered by it. Then she told me I was attacking her for asking her not to comment on my eating. We then got into an argument with me telling her that it is my issue but I can ask people to respect my boundaries. Am I the asshole for asking her to avoid those kinds of comments around me and for telling her she's being disrespectful? Am I the asshole for going against my parents' wishes to not go to my boyfriend's house? I 20F have been with my boyfriend 21M for almost 3 years now. My parents have known about him for the entire 3 years. A few weeks ago, I went to his house after we went on a mini golf date and all we did was watch some movies in the living room with his brother for an hour or two. But when I got home, my parents were very angry. They said that me being at his house makes the relationship formal. And when I asked what exactly that means, they said that we are acting as if we are engaged. In their words, I should have only gone to his house when I am there to announce to his parents that we are ready to get married. I said I don't see it as a big deal like they do, and that we have different opinions on how a relationship functions. However, they saw my disagreement as disobedience and disrespect, saying that as long as I live under their roof, I will do what they want. I don't live at home anymore. I'm only home from college for fall break. This went back and forth for a very long time. Essentially, it ended with them saying I am being naive and I am making terrible decisions by going to his house. Once. Some important context. My parents are Slavic, but they insisted that their opinions aren't coming from the culture, but from respect for yourself. I still think their issues with pacing in relationships is from being raised in a different culture and generation. I told them I understand where they are coming from, however I disagree, and I won't be stopping what brings me joy because it goes against their ideal of what I should be doing in my own relationship, which led to another outburst of calling me disrespectful for not listening to their advice, orders. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for going to Yosemite with my GF despite my mom asking me to not go? I am a 31-year-old male living in California. I have a long-term girlfriend who is Mexican. My Indian parents don't approve of her. We have been together for almost 6 years. In the last 3 years, I have shared this with my parents, but they want me to break up. They have always been nice while I was growing up and are caring and loving. But in this matter, there has been a lot of friction. After the first time I mentioned it, there were a lot of arguments and crying. My dad has been crying, and I feel really guilty. But I have stuck with my girlfriend over the last few years, even though I have not always been transparent that I am spending time with her regularly. My parents are in India. They know I see her, but they don't realize the seriousness of it or are in denial a lot of the time, hoping I would change. So I shared over the phone that I am going to Yosemite with my girlfriend. My mom was shocked, and it became a huge deal. My dad also had a long conversation about how this relationship is not right. I know it's difficult for them, but I have been bad at being transparent and assertive about my relationship. So now my mom is requesting that I not go on this trip and saying she never gave an ultimatum, but now she is asking me to swear on her life that I won't go on the trip. She says my dad will come to the USA and meet my girlfriend if I don't go. She said this in the heat of the moment to convince me. I didn't say yes or no. I am so confused. I am trying to be assertive, and I want to say that I will be going on the trip. Will I be an asshole if I say I want to go on this trip despite her red line? I feel like I am making things worse, but also feel like I have to put my foot down now. If I don't do it now, later I don't know how I will marry my girlfriend. Any advice is helpful. Anyone experienced with Indian parents? Am I the asshole for refusing to help my sibling financially when they never help me? My sibling and I are both adults. I work hard and manage my finances carefully. My sibling, on the other hand, has a history of poor financial decisions. They frequently ask me for money, claiming it's an emergency. Over the years, I've helped them multiple times, but they've never paid me back or helped me in return when I needed it. Recently, they asked me for a significant amount of money to cover their rent. I refused, explaining that I can't keep bailing them out without any accountability. They got upset, called me selfish, and even told our family, who are now pressuring me to give them the money. I feel guilty because I know they're struggling, but I also think it's not fair to me. Am I the asshole for saying no? Am I the asshole for getting ill before Christmas? My partner is very paranoid about him, myself, or our daughter, 3 years old, getting ill for Christmas. He's been really focused on making sure our daughter has a great day, which, of course, I want too. For some context, I'm quite prone to chest infections this time of year. despite being as careful as I can, sanitizing my hands and trying to avoid germs. My partner says I've potentially ruined Christmas because I've gotten sick. He's angry at me for not being hypervigilant enough and blames me for getting ill. I've had a chest infection on Christmas before, last year, in fact, but it didn't impact him or our daughter, and we still had a lovely day. The past few days I felt a cough coming on, but I was worried to say anything because I knew how he'd react. I finally told him. I couldn't really hide it anymore, and as I expected, he's furious. I work in an office and often go to the supermarket, where I touch trolleys and baskets. I've tried to explain to him that getting sick isn't something I can always control. I've also acknowledged that maybe I could have been more careful, but I already feel awful about it. Now I feel like a terrible parent for being sick at the wrong time. I also feel like I'm trying to downplay how unwell I feel because I don't want to make a big deal out of it, which is really taking its toll. We've now learned that both my sister-in-law and my mom are also unwell. He's convinced I caught whatever I have from them during the wreath-making event we all attended a few days ago. He called me selfish and stupid for not asking if anyone was ill before going. However, nobody mentioned being unwell before, during, or after the event. So, am I the asshole for getting ill before Christmas? Am I the asshole for refusing to let my in-laws use my car? I 26F have an okay car. At the moment, not the car I wanted, but it gets me where I need to go. For context, I totaled my last car, long story, and was too scared to drive for a while. My in-laws got a new car around this time. After a few months had passed, I had finally grown confident enough to try again, so I would ask my mother-in-law if I could start driving myself places. Every time I asked, she would always tell me that I can't because I wasn't on the insurance. Fast forward a few months, my sister-in-law messed up her car somehow, and my mother-in-law was letting her drive their car. Eventually, I found out from my father-in-law that my sister-in-law isn't on the insurance either, so he doesn't know why she won't let me drive. It became a constant argument about why she's allowed to drive but not me. As soon as I got my car, I decided to set some rules based on the situation surrounding their car. 1. I'm not taking my sister-in-law's kids anywhere or picking them up because they leave trash in my mother-in-law's car. And 2. My car is not a backup vehicle. If something happens to their car, they'll have to figure something out. Nothing too crazy, right? Fast forward a few months, and my sister-in-law messed up her car again, so now they're sharing one car. Except every time my sister-in-law takes their car, they turn around and ask me to use mine. When I'd say no because of rule number 2, they'd get mad and say, "Well, we need you to help us out." So my reaction would be, "Well, I needed help too and had to fight you all for months to get it." And then I'd end up letting it happen anyway because I don't have a backbone. At one point, my husband had to have a conversation with his dad because he thought it would be cool to go pick up one of the kids from school when he only asked me to take my car to the store. Mind you, his dad knew I wasn't okay with that. After getting my car out of the shop from an accident and spending way too much money taking Lyft to work every day, my mother-in-law was stressing about how she would get to work because my father-in-law also needed to use their car to get to work. I told her, "You know Uber and Lyft are a thing, right? You all didn't offer to take me to work, so..." Of course she got mad, and of course I felt like I was being guilted again, so I caved. Yesterday, my father-in-law somehow messed up their car, and now they can't drive it, meaning my car is the only working vehicle. Despite the number of times I've caved, I want to stand firm on my decision to not let them use my car because 1. I feel like they just let me struggle for years, not helping me get a car and not letting me drive. Not to mention I continuously watch them help out my sister-in-law even though she's totaled every car she's had. 2. They should have gotten a second car for these situations instead of expecting me to let them use my car. And 3. I feel like they don't ever expect me to say no to them. Am I really the asshole here? Because I don't know at this point. Am I the asshole for advising my brother to change his loungewear before he goes to college? 25F, live at home with my dad, 41M. My brother, 20M, and my boyfriend, 27M. My brother has been going to community college for the past 2.5 years and is transferring to a 4-year university this January. My brother has never lived anywhere but our house before. He will be living in a traditional dorm come January. I am admittedly a little protective of him. I don't have to worry about him socially at college because he is great at making friends, and he will be playing on the baseball team, so he'll meet people right away. However, I am concerned he'll get weird looks. My brother literally walks around the house in his underwear constantly. I'm not talking boxers, my boyfriend does that, and you can't even tell the difference between that and shorts. I don't know the name, but it's like the really tight underwear. And before you say that he probably only does this because it's family, he literally has friends over and doesn't get dressed no matter how many bewildered looks they give me or my dad. I told my boyfriend to talk to him because I thought it would be less awkward. Coming from a guy. I told my boyfriend that if he took my brother shopping for athletic shorts or pajamas or even boxers, I would pay for them. I just don't want him to be the weirdo in college or on his team. My boyfriend talked to my brother, and it didn't go well. My brother immediately knew it was coming from me. He came to me and said that he's stressed enough about starting college and doesn't need me psyching him out about something so stupid. What he wears to lounge around and sleep in when he doesn't live at home is not my business. I see his point, but I also don't think I was wrong to try and spare him from teasing. Am I the asshole for subtly suggesting to my coworker that they smell bad? I work in a lab where we share a station with other coworkers for long periods. Recently, I started training a new coworker who has a strong body odor. It's been difficult for me to focus during our sessions because of the smell, and I've needed to step away a few times for breaks. A few days ago, they complimented my perfume and mentioned how good I smell. This led to a conversation about making perfume last. During the conversation, I mentioned, in general terms, that good personal hygiene and using deodorant/antiperspirant help make perfume more effective and that perfume doesn't cover up body odor. They seemed offended and became distant afterward. Later that day, they avoided training with me and asked for help from another coworker. That coworker later mentioned the same issue about the smell, and when I told them about my earlier conversation, they said I shouldn't have made that comment because it was rude and made me sound like an asshole. So now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for trying to subtly address the situation? Am I the asshole for telling my brother he doesn't have to invite our father to his wedding? Hello, you all helped me with another dilemma about 2 years ago, so I'm back because I have another one and really need your input. My brother and I, both in our late 20s, were having a discussion the other day about his upcoming wedding and our father. For context, our parents are divorced because our dad was verbally abusive towards our mom. And me. My brother was the only child oblivious to what was going on. Definitely not his fault because we never told him until the divorce happened. Since he was older, he was out most days and never around when our dad would start arguments and put us down. He found out the whole truth in family therapy. He recently told me that around that time, he had reached out to our father, who was already in a new relationship and had moved in with his new partner, and begged him to still be part of his life and be our dad, to which my father replied, "Back off. I have a new family now." My jaw dropped to the ground. I didn't expect him to say that to his favorite child out of all people. The relationship between my father and me has always been rocky, to say the least. There were times I cut off contact for 3 years, then felt bad for him, and then he would do something extreme and we were back to square one. As of now, we're on neutral terms, but I don't see it lasting after hearing this. My brother is in a dilemma, and I plainly told him he shouldn't invite him at all because he would make it about himself as always. He has already stated he's probably not coming because of some lame excuse, and since he was bold enough to make that statement back then, that will be his punishment. I know what he said to my brother broke his heart, and it still does. My brother deserves to have people that love him by his side on his special day and every day of his life. So he told our father he wasn't invited after all, and he was livid. He made this huge speech about how family is important, how the father of the groom should be there, and how we've humiliated him to the in-laws by not inviting him. By the way, he refuses to meet the in-laws and thinks they're below him and not good enough. Meanwhile, the in-laws are the sweetest people I've ever met. They dearly love their future son-in-law and us, and we love them and my future sister-in-law just as much. Our father is refusing to speak to my brother now, trying to hurt him as much as he did back then, and he has reached out to me, demanding to know why he's not invited and how I've poisoned his son against him. I told him to do some self-reflection, and if he's still wondering, then I can't really help him. My brother and my sister-in-law deserve a drama-free wedding, and having our father there, it will be far from drama-free. On the other hand, maybe I'm too biased. Maybe it's my own trauma making me think of the worst-case scenario. But then again, he's always disappointed us in many ways, and I just want to look after my brother at the end of the day. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for taking my roommate's food out of the package? Hi, recently I, 21F, and my roommate, 21F, got into a fight, and I feel like I was in the right, but I figured I'd put it out here. My roommate and I share a kitchen and the majority of the storage space, cabinets, fridge/freezer shelves. She takes up most of it. It's been annoying, and I've brought it up to her, but I feel like she doesn't care. For the most part, it wouldn't be a big deal, but the issue arises for me because her boyfriend, 22M, basically lives here too for free. He just doesn't pay rent but spends 99.9% of his time here. So most of the space is taken up by things they buy. Here's where our fight stemmed from and where I might be an asshole. I was trying to make space in the freezer for some things I bought, and there wasn't much space. So I was going through her stuff and noticed a box of ice cream bars that were individually wrapped. So I took the bars out of the box and threw the box away to make some more space. Later in the day, I got a passive-aggressive text from her basically scolding me for throwing the box away. She said it could have put her boyfriend in danger. My argument was that he should know if he can or can't have something that might cause an allergic reaction, and if it would, then why would they buy it in the first place? So am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for not cleaning up after my parents? I 19M, and my parents have been butting heads. More recently, I have two older siblings, one who's out of the house and the other that lives in our family home with the rest of us and their girlfriend. My mom has been sick/unstable all of my life. My siblings and I have been doing 90% of the household chores since we were children. My dad worked full-time as a provider, and my mom was often asleep or in her room all day, except for the rare occasions she'd go on a cleaning spree we would inevitably be dragged into. Now that I'm becoming an adult, I resent having to do these chores. I'll admit that I live rent-free in our home but care for our pets and my mother through her illnesses. This care has gone beyond just acts of service, and just like as a child, I am responsible for my mother's emotional needs as well. I can't drive yet, and I live in a place so small it's legally considered a village, so there aren't any work opportunities close to home. I've managed to work out an agreement with some friends that have recently moved into their own place, and if I'm able to get a job in their town, I'll be able to get rides and stay at their place after work. The issue is that I take care of almost everything in our house. I clean the floors, run errands for my mom, do the kitchen, though this is the only chore split with my sibling, put food away or else it goes bad on the counter, pick up trash, and other general tidying and whatever my parents need me to. They rely on me so much that I'm afraid my house will genuinely fall apart if I'm not there several times a week. I've started pushing back on these things to hopefully spark some independence in my parents, but they don't understand and say, "You're just helping out. It's not even that much to ask for," and other things along the same line. It really gets to me, and I feel guilty about how pissed off I am over it. I was raised with the belief that parents already do so much for us that behaving was the least we could do. I have been cleaning the house since I was a child, and now that I'm older, I resent how it reminds me that I'm still under their thumb. Am I the asshole for wanting them to pick up after themselves and clean their own home? Am I the asshole for not appreciating my brother's girlfriend living with us? Hello? I'm an 18M, and I live with my mother, brother, 23M, and his girlfriend, 18F, and the living situation is rather cluttered. Ever since my brother's girlfriend moved in, things have been very stressful for me because I was the only one who would clean the house since my mother and brother worked so much they didn't have time. Now, with an extra person here, the mess in the house has been getting worse and worse. His girlfriend straight up refuses to help out or clean and just stays in his room, then brings down a massive amount of dishes she's been keeping in the bedroom they stay in and doesn't even rinse them off or anything. They are always caked in ketchup and hot sauce. On top of her not doing the smallest thing to make my life simpler, she also refuses to do her own laundry and expects me to bring the laundry up to the room when it's done. She doesn't have a job, and I've recently started working, and every day after work, I come home to a disgusting house that I have to clean. The worst part is my room is right next to theirs, so when they are having intercourse I can hear it and it disgusts me so much. It's kind of rude to do that with someone else in the room right next to you, especially when we have paper-thin walls. I've talked to my mother about this, and she doesn't see an issue with it at all and just stands up for them. His girlfriend recently brought her male cat, who wasn't neutered, and it pissed all over their room to the point where the smell was seeping out into mine. And male cat pee is one of the worst smells I've ever smelled. It's getting to the point where I feel like flipping out on her. Especially because how can you move into someone else's life and do this? Wouldn't you want to clean up after yourself? Wouldn't you want them to like you? She doesn't even interact with me and acts weird and scared when I do. Like she knows what she's doing is kind of wrong. She acts more like a child than me, and it makes me feel kind of sick to my stomach that there's someone who still needs proper raising living with us. What made my brother want to be with an 18-year-old who acts like she's 14 is beyond me. She doesn't even cook, just eats our air fryer food all day. So, am I the asshole for wanting to tell this girl to start helping out? I feel like it shouldn't be my place to say something, but at the same time, it makes me so mad that she's allowed to do that. But if I did that, I would be yelled at and criticized. Am I the asshole for kicking my friend out of my house after her boyfriend crashed our Halloween plans? I, 17F, and Lisa, 17F, have been best friends since 6th grade. We've always gotten along great and have never even fought before. The only problem is when Lisa gets into a relationship. Most of the time, it means she drops off the face of the earth for a couple of weeks/months and then suddenly will reappear like nothing happened. Her most recent boyfriend, Jack, 16M, was different though. They've been dating since April, and anytime we make plans to hang out, Jack is always there too. At first, I thought she just wanted us to meet and to get along. But then it started getting kind of overbearing. If I invited Lisa over to hang out, Jack was there. If we planned a fun day, Jack was there. If we had a sleepover, Jack would hang out till 11 p.m. and then leave. Jack got so comfortable that he would come over, enter uninvited, and sit with me/my brothers without Lisa there. I started getting tired of it. I wanted to hang out with Lisa without Jack, even once. So when we made our Halloween plans, I asked Lisa if it could please just be us because I was starting to feel like a third wheel. She promised that she would not invite him along to any of our plans and even said that she wouldn't contact him that night. Halloween rolls up, and as we're getting ready, Lisa pulls out 2 pregnancy tests because she missed her period. Both negative. The plan was to go to 2 haunted houses and then watch scary movies at home. We get done with one, and as we are heading back to the car, guess who? Jack. Lisa says she's going to tell Jack about the false alarm and would be right back. Instead, she says she's going to ride with Jack over to the next haunted house, and we'd meet there. At that, I started getting pretty angry and kind of petty. While we were in line, Jack and friends still in tow, I didn't respond to anything Lisa said to me. Lisa got annoyed with this and said, "When I'm done throwing a fit, she'll be waiting at home," and then left with Jack. Mind you, the home was my house. My empty house. I, being angry and naive, continued with doing the haunted house with Jenna before we went back home. While in line and on the drive back, I was feeling childish for how I behaved and like I did overreact. But then I pulled into my driveway, and Lisa and Jack jumped up off the couch like they had been tossed, and it was clear they weren't cuddling. I don't think they got that far yet, but I didn't.
Kare.
Was pissed. Thankfully, Jack had some common sense and left as soon as we got in the house. Lisa and I started arguing. She was saying that she needed to tell him about the false alarm and how he didn't want to just leave her alone at my house, and I brought up how she promised that this one time, she would not have Jack be in our plans. I told her to go back to her house, which was 45 minutes out of town. We haven't talked since, and for most of this time I felt like I was justified in my actions, but lately, I'm starting to think that maybe I did overreact and that I was being childish. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for calling my friend spoiled? I am 19, live with my mom, my little brother, M6, and my older brother, M20. My friend, Jason, M22, lives with his parents at home. This in and of itself is fine. I go to university, and Jason is currently taking a gap year. Today, I had to cancel plans with Jason because my mom suddenly had to work overtime, which meant I had to look after my brother for a little while. Jason thinks this is weird and considers it abuse towards me. He wanted to know more about my home life situation. So we then talked about finances. I told him I pay my mom €50 a month for living costs, and that she doesn't pay for my clothes or shoes, and I get those things for myself. Jason doesn't have to pay his family anything, and his mom still gives him €100 a month for clothes, and she buys him appliances for his PC and other things from time to time. He thinks it's weird that I have to pay my mom and called her an abuser again. For reference, I work every other day after university and earn about €600 a month. Jason works, but only 3 hours a week. Then we talked about cooking. I told him I sometimes cook for myself or my family. He was bewildered. He said that since I am living under her roof, she needs to cook for me and that I am too young to cook for myself. He then said his mom always cooks for him breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that this is normal since she is his mom. She orders food if she isn't home. Then we discussed vacations. My mom went on vacation with her boyfriend this year and left me and my older brother alone at home while my little brother went to my grandparents. Jason again called this abuse. How can she leave you at home for a week? My mom and dad take me everywhere. I can't be alone. I'm their kid. At this point, I was tired of him calling my mom abusive, thinking I'd agree, so I just said I was fine with all of this and didn't think it was abusive. I turn 20 next week. I'm not a clueless child. This is normal. He then proceeded to call me a victim and clueless. I got annoyed, so I said he was spoiled and privileged. Number 22-year-old living at home gets everything handed to them on a platter and treated like a child like he does. He then stopped responding and hasn't texted me since. Am I the asshole? Maybe I went too far. Edit. I forgot to mention they have a cleaning lady over every day, and he never tidies his own room. Am I the asshole for being pissed off and resentful? My husband, M36, and I, F34, have problems every single birthday, holiday, etc. He says he comes from a family where gift giving isn't important. We literally went to his family Christmas yesterday, and he got so many gifts from his dad, and my girls got gifts as well. I luckily bought his family gifts because he didn't. I come from a family where we give gifts for every birthday and Christmas at minimum. Thoughtful gifts are my love language, especially on my birthday. Edit. He only hates giving me gifts. He gets stuff for his brother, his niece and nephew, our daughters, and our dogs. We've had issues before where I have to straight up ask him to get me gifts for my birthday, which was a few days ago, and separate it from Christmas. He complains every single year about spending money. He has plenty and buys himself and our girls stuff all the time. The years I didn't ask for things, he hasn't gotten me anything. His other excuse was that I hate whatever he gets me. Yes, I hated the rock from the side of the road for Mother's Day, so I give him a lot of ideas a few months in advance. I begged him to take my daughter shopping so she could pick me out a birthday gift. If she picked a banana, I would love that. He said he would but kept putting it off. It never happened. So, on the day of my birthday, he ran a few pointless errands in the morning, and when I woke up, he hadn't wrapped a present for me or filled out a card. I begged him to do it before the end of my birthday, but instead, he was sick with a head cold and laid on the couch all day. We've all been sick for weeks from daycare bugs, and my birthday was the first day he had congestion. He didn't wrap a gift or fill out a card on my birthday. He half-assed one the day after and then forgot to tell me to unwrap it. Am I the asshole for being pissed, full of resentment, and telling him he has ruined every birthday and Christmas we have had? We've been together for over 15 years, and it started off pretty good. But the past 10 years have been terrible? I basically went off on him because it broke my heart, and he now acts like a victim because I did that. Tell me how I can fix things now? In an argumentative way. You can't. The only excuse I can think of is he doesn't care enough about me to put in any effort. What other excuse could there be? Am I the asshole for asking to borrow my grandfather's car while visiting? I'm 20 and a university student. I still live with my parents, and we recently drove up to visit family for the holidays. I haven't seen any of my friends in ages, and I have other family to visit for the holidays while I'm here. And to top it all off, I have an orthodontist appointment on Thursday. This is all while we are visiting my hometown, so I'm not driving all over the place. So, I asked my grandfather if I could borrow his car to take care of everything. My grandfather and I have always been very close. He taught me how to drive, and for a while I was using the very same car I asked to borrow at his insistence. My grandfather said yes and that he had no problem with me borrowing it. So, I borrowed the car and drove back to my other grandmother's home in it, where we are staying while in town. However, my stepfather said that it was very inappropriate, selfish, trashy, and even called it ghetto, that I was even asking to borrow it while we are visiting. He said that I was being selfish and inconsiderate. However, my grandfather always lets my other cousins borrow the car when they need it, and I am no exception. Unlike my cousins, I always wash the car before I return it, and I always fill the tank up. I'm never rough with the car, and many have said that I am the safest driver they know, my grandfather included. I am very responsible with the car, and my grandfather trusts me. My grandfather has two other very good cars to use, his 2017 truck and his 2020 RAV4. If my grandfather had no other vehicles, I would not ask to borrow the car. My stepdad kept telling me that he would never ask to borrow his grandparents' car or his mom's car. He told me that he's ashamed of how I am and that he's disgusted that I have no shame in taking the car. Furthermore, he said, "I can't believe this is the type of person I raised." Worst of all, my mother agrees with him. When I tried to explain myself to my dad, he just yelled, "I don't give a fuck about what he did for your other family. I don't give a fuck about your family. Do you realize how this makes me look?" As for needing to get from point A to point B, my stepdad says it's bad to ask or accept rides from people as well. And he wouldn't drive me to my appointment either. He told me, "Learn the bus route or Uber there." I truly do have no shame in asking for the car, but I only feel ashamed hearing what my dad said. Am I the asshole for asking my neighbors to turn down their music and threatening the cops? The young kids in the house next door had a party last night, and I am all for that. However, at about 10:30, after listening to thumping for 4 hours already, I went outside and asked if they could turn it down some because it was getting late and I wanted to relax and watch TV. They obliged for about 15 minutes, then turned it right back up. At 11:15, I stuck my head out the back door and asked nicely to turn it down to a reasonable volume. And the guy outside says, "I don't live here. I'm sorry." I replied, "It's after 11, and I don't want to have to call the cops." Was I rude? Maybe, but was I an asshole? Am I the asshole for bailing on the annual Christmas party? I, 27M, am going home for a few days to spend Christmas with my mom and sister. I live 4 hours away, so I do see them every month or two, but still kind of few and far in between. Every Christmas Eve, we go to a lavish party at a family friend's house. None of my extended family is there, just family friends. My sister and I grew up with their kids, so we knew them well and have been going for as long as I can remember. It was fun when we were kids, but as we've grown up, we've grown apart, and I never see any of these people anymore except for at this party. For the past few years, I've really hated this party. No one bothers to socialize with me beyond the usual formalities, and I often find myself standing awkwardly alone, excluded from other people's social interactions. It makes sense to me. Like I said, I only ever see these people at this party. We've grown apart, and they'd rather talk to people they're closer with. I get it. Also, I just broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years, not even 2 weeks ago. I'm not in a good place mentally right now. I told them I'm not going, and they are not happy about it. They are making me feel guilty about it. My mom and sister really want me to go. They say they want us to be together on Christmas Eve, and that it's important to them that I go. They want me to keep my connections to everyone there, and they want me to share my recent accomplishments in flight school. They have both talked to me separately about wanting to all go together, and that it's really important to them that I go, and that we should be together as a family on Christmas Eve. I think they just want to keep up appearances. If they actually prioritized spending time with me, we'd be doing something just the three of us. Going to this party means not spending time with them, because I'll be spending my time in awkward conversations while they socialize with people at the party. I just know that I'm going to be stuck talking to people I don't care about, having the same conversation about where I live, what I do, and oh yeah, my girlfriend cheated on me. I'm an adult. I can choose to not go to a party. But they are making a big deal about this, and maybe I should just suck it up for a few hours. What do you think? Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for deciding to skip a few people for a small gift I'm giving my department? Long story short, I am the support person for a semi-big team, 26 employees combined. I oversee a lot of inventory, reports, and organization of the department, and in my short time in this role, I have gotten the chance to work closely with 13 of those employees. Some of these employees simply don't acknowledge me. I haven't ever seen them due to schedule differences, or they recently started in the department. I decided to get all those 13 employees chocolate bars as a thank you for their support and encouragement, which means I'll be leaving out 13 employees. My reasoning behind this is the lack of interaction with them, but I feel guilty leaving them out, even though I haven't worked directly with them. Am I the asshole for deciding to give only those whom I've gotten close to versus the whole department? Am I the asshole brother Troubles, my sibling, 32M, called earlier this year to tell me he was depressed, saying I, 29M, was part of the cause of his depression and subsequently part of the solution. He refuses therapy and thinks medication is the only thing he needs. Keep in mind, we barely spoke to each other over the last 15 or so years, mostly due to him wishing he was an only child and ignoring me to live with his fake reality. His words. Since that call from him telling me this, we haven't spoken. It's been months. My therapist is supportive of this, given our history, and my friends think it's a him problem, not a me problem, and that he shouldn't have said I'm part of what will cure his depression. Keep in mind, we live on opposite ends of the US. He graduated college yesterday, and I haven't sent anything or said anything. He lives completely across the country from me, and I can't bring myself to even speak to him to say congratulations or Merry Christmas. I feel like since he told me I'm his solution to his depression, that if I don't respond to him immediately, he'll somehow take that as a sign to try to hurt himself, so I just went no contact to preserve my own health. Am I the asshole for going no contact after that call? He hasn't reached out to me either. How do you even begin trying to repair a relationship with someone who previously told you they were purposefully not speaking to you for years, but suddenly you're the cure for their depression? Meanwhile, I've been suffering from anxiety, depression, and CPTSD and have been in therapy for years. I've tried to tell my brother this before, but instead, he brags about how much better he is since he only suffers from depression. What kind of mind game is this dude putting me through? Am I the asshole for not returning home promptly last night? Okay, so to keep things somewhat concise, my wife and I, we're both women. I know my gender will matter a lot to some. We're hosting her family for the holidays. Her family doesn't like me much, but more in a cold and distant sort of way than actively aggressive. Until yesterday. They don't like me for a variety of little reasons, but the main one is that my wife's family moves in very gossip-ridden circles that still care about reputation and image to a Jane Austen novel degree, and they view me as a poor fit and walking scandal. I went out last night to pick up some treats and a bit of groceries, and while I was gone, I got a text from my MIL telling me to get back to the house ASAP because she needed to have a conversation with me, followed by a text from my wife telling me to please stay away from the house for the next 2 hours. I decided to listen to my wife, and apparently, she spent the time arguing with her family and shooing her parents and siblings out of the house entirely, cutting the holidays short. I've since been absolutely flooded with texts from her family about how this all could have been avoided and the holidays saved if I'd just come home to have an adult conversation rather than hiding like a child. And to an extent, that's probably true, hence why I'm here. My wife is aggressively protective of me, and I will frequently try to play peacemaker and temper her outrage on my behalf. So if I'd been present, there'd have been a middle ground found. And I know her family wants the best for her, even if they're kind of harsh and snobby about it. So I guess I'm just here looking for a third-party opinion on this. What do y'all think? Should I have come home last night to let them say their piece? Did I mess up the holidays? Am I the asshole posted a picture on Facebook and was told I'm too full of myself by a friend? After years of not feeling confident because of my size and a couple of serious physical issues, I finally bit the bullet and had a couple of major surgeries this year, from which I'm now finally recovered. Both were medically necessary and could not wait any longer, so it wasn't plastic surgery or anything like that. I lost a pretty decent amount of weight due to my illness and got my teeth finally fixed, and I am not embarrassed to go out in public now and be more outgoing. Needless to say, I have very few pictures of myself from the past few years to post, mostly because I was embarrassed to take those pictures and somehow had very few taken of me, and well, there just aren't that many of just me out there. So I took a picture of myself and posted it as an update on Facebook. Well, long story short, she was told by several mutual friends that I'm acting too conceited and I should not post what I thought was a decently regular picture of myself. It was simply just a regular self-taken picture or so. I thought, I don't even know what the hell to think now. One side of me feels like these people expect me to stay in the background and subservient and not be more confident in myself. Another side of me wonders if I am being a little over the top. I think I'm just finally in a place where I want to express and be myself, but hearing this takes me back more than a few steps and now it has me questioning everything. Such as, did these people actually say that, or was it one person being judgmental? We do have one person in common that's incredibly judgmental that unfortunately she listens to. Or did several people actually state this? Or is this because my friend thinks I'm going to eventually grow beyond our lifelong friendship? Am I being a narcissistic asshole? I will admit, maybe I am being a little more into myself right now, but damn it, after being sickly looking, ill, and having no real personal confidence for the last 10 years, I think I deserve to enjoy this moment now that I've reached the end of all the shit I went through for the past several years. I just don't know what to think. This is probably stated poorly and longer than I wanted, so sorry everyone. Am I the asshole? Buying a glass case for my figures to prevent my nephew from ruining them. I, 25F, and my husband, 25M, are big gamers and collectors. We have an entire room in our house dedicated to having a shared space to play games. On the end wall, we have a shelf where we keep our game figures we like to collect, figures like old Skylanders and Disney Infinity figures. We are currently working on completing both of these sets. My sister, who we'll call Jane, 23F, and her son/my nephew, who we can call Tommy, 6M, live 2 states over, which means when they come to visit, they have to stay with my husband and me. I repeatedly tell Jane and Tommy that the figures in the game room are not to be touched as they are collectibles in the works. Jane brushed this off and let Tommy play with these figures against my request. It wasn't until Tommy broke the head off of my Violet from The Incredibles figure due to her neck being very thin compared to the size of her head, that Jane had finally scolded Tommy for touching my figures. This upset me so much I had to lock myself in my bedroom to cool off. All is well, as my husband surprised me with a new one for my birthday the month following. Once they headed back home from my house after Thanksgiving, I decided I needed to take the extra step if my wishes could not be followed. I went on Amazon and bought a large glass display case with a lock on the doors, like a trophy case you would see in a school. I neatly arranged the Skylanders, Disney Infinity figures, and Amiibos all on their own shelves. Since it is around Christmas time, my sister has once again come to stay in my home with my nephew. It was to his very unpleasant surprise when he entered our game room to see this newly locked display case. He begged me to open it so he could play with the figures, and I repeatedly told him about all of the other games he could play. Jane says I've gone too far purchasing a large display case for my toys so I can, as she puts it, lock up the one thing Tommy enjoys playing with when he visits. She also has our mother on her side, calling me to tell me to stop bullying my nephew. Am I the asshole? Edit. I do not want to lock the entire game room because my nephew loves to play our Nintendo Switch, and sometimes my husband and I will also play Mario Kart with him. My nephew is very respectful of our Nintendo Switch and our other games. For some reason, it is only the figures that are the issue. I don't want to leave him bored at my house, so I don't want to lock the entire room. Another note, please realize that yes, Tommy is old enough to know better, but ultimately this is a result of my sister as a mother, not Tommy as a little kid. Thank you for all the kind comments/messages. I appreciate them all. Am I the asshole for not letting my family use my car for a road trip? This is my first time doing one of these, so I apologize if it's not perfect. For some background, I, 21M, got the car probably 2 months ago after trying to get one for so long. Since I was a teenager, all I wanted to do was learn how to drive, but they would always avoid teaching me for some reason, and I always found that weird. However, as soon as my sister turned 16, they took her to the DMV, immediately put her in a driving test and taught her how to drive and all that. I'm not upset with her at all, OL. I'm just saying. Anyway, we took a trip last month, and they used the car to drive a few hundred miles and back, even though I really didn't want them to. Now they want to take it out of state again, and I really just don't want to because if something happens to the car, I'll be the one responsible for it, and I'll be the one left without a car again, haha. It's a 2012 Nissan Sentra in decent condition with about 210k miles. I just hate how they refuse to even teach me how to drive. But as soon as I get a car, it's like an RV to them and they see it as everyone's. It's crazy sometimes. But yeah, am I the asshole if I don't let my family use my car? Am I the asshole for not hiding my polyamorous relationship in front of my best friend's brother because it may trigger him? Am I the asshole? I 38F am polyamorous. I have been openly polyamorous for 11 years. I have a two partners 36M, who I've been in a relationship with for 20 years, and 34M, who I have been in a relationship with for 7 years. Both of my partners know about each other and we are all consenting adults. Everyone that has any type of involvement in my life knows about my two partners, including my best friend. My bestie is also engages in polyamorous relationships, but her dynamic is different than my own. She is married and has an online boyfriend that she keeps secret from her family, but not her husband. Her and I have been best friends for 24 years and I am very close with her mother and stepdad as well as her husband, who is like a brother to me, and her father-in-law, who has become a surrogate dad to me. Anyways, I am open about my partners. My whole family, immediate and extended family, have met both of my partners and they have both attended family celebrations with me, as well as her mother, stepdad and father-in-law, who have welcomed and accepted both of my partners warmly. Now here is where it gets sticky. My best friend's bother, who I'm not close with but we are good with each other, never had a fight, helped each other if ever it was needed, ECT, and his wife have a rocky marriage. Past infidelity and lack of communication have caused a lot of issues between them. So here's the thing, my bestie is hosting a Christmas Eve party, smallish, with her parents, father-in-law and her brother and family. She specifically said she wanted me and one of my partners to attend because, and I quote, she doesn't want my relationship with 34M to trigger him. I asked her to explain how my relationship would trigger him when I've never hidden my relationship with 34M from him. And she said because of his wife's previous infidelity. To which I replied, relationship issues aren't my problem. My relationship is completely different because there is no lying or secrets involved. I am not cheating on my partners, and I refuse to hide my relationship with 34M. She got really quiet, then kind of changed the subject. Am I wrong for considering not even going to a party where one of my partners is not welcomed? I have this awful uneasiness in my chest because I can't casually disregard/dismiss my partner or his feelings, and am having a moral debate on whether or not I should mention the whole conversation to him. It just really sucks because she is supposed to be my best friend and it felt like, oh, make sure you hide your relationship just to coddle my brother. I don't know if I even want to go at this point. If I should sit down with her and tell her how what she said hurts. Or if I should tell 34M what she had said because I don't want to hurt him. Am I the asshole for planning to skip a secret Santa with my friends? Yesterday I finally saw my friends after being away for 2 months due to sports training. During this time it was my birthday, but I was unable to celebrate my 18th with my friends because I was half across the country. When we finally got together it was fun. We went skating and decorated cookies, and when it was time to leave we said goodbye and hugged. Today my mother brought up the fact that I had never celebrated my birthday nor that I received any cards or gifts from my friends. I replied with something along the lines of, I don't want to ask them to do it. I want them to do it because they want to. Also that asking for presents and cards 2 months after my birthday makes me look a bit conceited and greedy. However, this made me realize that I bought card and presents for all of their birthdays even when I was away for a trip and found some way to celebrate them. I understand that friendships and showing love to others shouldn't be conditional or transactional, but sometimes I just feel like I'm left out or not appreciated. I feel like I always put so much effort into my friendships and it is never reciprocated. I haven't brought it up with my friends yet because I feel like I'll sound greedy. They started planning a secret Santa and I just don't feel like going or participating in it. So am I the asshole for planning to skip this secret Santa? If anybody is wondering what I got for their birthdays, here's a list. This is what I get for everyone on their birthdays. A card handmade with watercolor flowers, I paint them. A bouquet of flowers to family-sized candy or chocolate, some skincare, usually a serum or under-eye patches, some jewelry, gold or silver depending on what they prefer, some kind of trinkets. For example, I bought my friend a one-piece shirt and stuffy from Hot Topic. Sorry for any mistakes or formatting issues, I wrote it on my phone in a hurry. Am I the asshole for having an issue with my BF using charactered AI while we're in a relationship? So for context, me, F, and my boyfriend, M, have been together for a couple months. We're in a long-distance relationship. It's not that bad though, cause he's only a couple of hours away. I've always known that my BF used character.ai, but it never really bothered me, cause I wouldn't think too much about it. He'd always make jokes about being on it for 20 hours weekly and whatnot, but I didn't pay much mind to it until one day he was showing me something on the app and I saw that most of his recommended, if not all, was just femboys. He made it pretty obvious to me that he was bisexual, so obviously he'd be attracted to males, but I was still a bit uncomfortable. Clearly this would mean he had some sort of romantic/sexual relationship with these bots, and I don't want to judge him at all for it, but it puts me in an awkward situation when he says he would get on charrctur.ai every night and speak to those bots in what I would assume to be a romantic/sexual context. I would like to bring this up with him, but I'm not very sure how. I really love him with all my heart, but this is one of those things where I can't just sit back and deal with it, as it kind of breaks my heart a little. I know that he might be addicted and he perhaps can't stop, but ID. Also, like, if there was some effort to stop rather than making jokes about it with me or other people, because it's just not that funny. I'd just like some advice on what I could do here, without sounding rude to him or judgmental. Any help would be extremely appreciated. Am I the asshole if I split my family up to start my dream job? Made this account just to ask this. Tried to keep some privacy. I have wanted to be in the medical field since I was 12. I am now 30 and am months away from being able to have my dream job. I've had years of schooling and put thousands of hours and thousands of dollars into becoming certified and successful in my field. I started at 18. I own a house with my co-parenting partner, also 30. We do live together and have worked on the relationship for the past 10 plus years, as we have an 8-year-old together. Our relationship status is fuzzy, but not the point of this post. In order to live out my dream job, I would have to move about 45 minutes away into the major city in our area. The job will eventually make me 6 figures, think 3 years with no overtime, and the year I start if I do take 1 day of extra overtime a week. My partner does not want to move. They have also spent the last few years changing their career to mine, which makes it problematic due to the time you spend on shift. They are starting at the bottom but will still make good money fairly quickly. They have now decided to apply to jobs in our area that they will get before or around the same time as mine. Our major city takes longer with background checks and paperwork than the smaller area jobs they are applying to. I do not want to be in our area. While I could do that and make less money, it would not be the dream city job I have spent the last 13 years working towards and dreaming about. This job was the entire reason I got into this particular profession. Would I be the asshole if I took the job and moved away from my co-parent and kid? I would do split custody and provide whatever financial assistance needed, even though my hope would be to be able to have my kid more often than half the time. I would not keep my co-parent from seeing our kid or being involved. Advice would be appreciated too. Edit. The job requires that I live in the city to be hired. It is very competitive, and if I decline now, I will not have another chance. There are age restrictions, which I am approaching. Am I the asshole for waiting until January to get Christmas gifts? I, 19M, am disabled, unable to work, and am on government assistance. I get just enough to make sure I have what I need with a little left over. Last month on November 25th, my dog passed away and my parents couldn't afford it, so I offered to pay the £220 when I got paid November 30th, but I'd also borrowed £40 from my mum a little while before, so in total. This month I had £240 less than what I'd usually have. I got paid for something else December 3rd, and with that I had to buy stuff for my hamster and get groceries by the time I'd done all of that. It's suddenly the day before Christmas Eve, and I have 10p in my bank, and am genuinely being consumed by guilt because I couldn't afford to take my brother out for his birthday like I promised, and I can't afford to get people Christmas gifts like I wanted to. Honestly, I'm just making this for maybe a little reassurance that I'm not an absolutely awful person because it's genuinely starting to affect me mental health-wise, and it's making it hard to enjoy the season. I'm really just hoping that by some miracle I get paid early tonight so I can go out Christmas Eve day. Though I don't think I will, considering I'm set to get paid December 30th. Am I the asshole for throwing my shoe at someone in school? Okay, to preface, this was a while ago. In 6th to 7th grade, I'd say. I'm not too much older, being a freshman now. But the story's been around in my school for me to genuinely overhear people calling me insane. So, background information, I have anger issues and no tolerance for loud noises. And every class I would have in middle school would be obnoxiously loud. To the point, sometimes, I would scream and run out the classroom. Childish, I know. There was this one kid, a boy. He was one of the worst in our class. And it was one of those days where I'm tired and the class is just being annoying. It got to the point where I was yelling, crying, and I grabbed my shoe and hurled it at him. Fast forward to now, and I can still hear him talking about it to his friends/new students whenever I'm around. I'm trying to not be as insane as I was before, and I've done a decent job. But being known as explosive isn't doing me any favors. AITA, am I the asshole if I do not invite my MIL to my motley Christmas dinner? Not the a-hole background. My in-laws live a few streets away, while my parents are hours away and we have a strained relationship. They attended Christmas at my home 6 years ago, while we see my in-laws every Christmas. I have hosted Christmas dinner after working all day, and the day has swapped around to suit my father-in-law not liking to leave the house. I usually host Christmas breakfast and the morning present opening, sometimes having my mother-in-law stay Christmas Eve to fully experience the wake-up with the 3 children. Then we, and my sister-in-law's family, attend my in-laws' home for lunch. Now, this Christmas my partner is working away for the first time and I struggled a little with finding the magic in it, or how to plan it around his absence for all the children under 10. My mother-in-law said because he was away, she didn't want to do anything, and neither did FIL. My partner tried to convince her to do something, participate in his absence, whatever it was. But it was maintained that they were doing nothing and going nowhere. So, I was stumped, and my SIL kindly opened her home and invited me and the children over for a small lunch. Me and my partner are the social ones who do a lot of the hosting. But she understands my struggle, stepped out of her comfort zone and invited us. The lunch works well with me taking my older children to their father's, ex-husband, and the cousins get a play and exchange presents, leaving just me and the 4 years old from the early afternoon. I realized other people are in my situation, so I plan to host a lonely people's Christmas dinner for the people I know without families, partners, or children for whatever reason. I have 6 people who do not know each other all coming to my home, so I can cook for them dinner and cure the loneliness together, my own motley Christmas crew. Today, 3 days out, my MAL dropped and asked, "So what are we going to do for Christmas?" I said, "Well, we had nothing planned, because you and FIL didn't want to do anything or go anywhere." And then I told her about my day. She is attending SIL, FIL is not going. Then when I reached my dinner plans, she said, "Oh, that sounds good. I'll just invite myself to that." I feel like a bad person, but she really let me down when I needed some family. Some effort to help make Christmas for me and the children this year, considering the effort I have maintained the last 6 years, e.g., hosting numerous events, including milestone birthdays at my home. I created a day around their absence, and now she has infiltrated it at the last moment. Am I the asshole if I don't have her here for dinner? Bah humbug. Am I the asshole for not excluding myself from the friend group? So I, 23F, and my former best friend, 25M, aren't on speaking terms anymore. I thought we could resolve things between us, but he decided to cut me off, and I've respected that. I do not talk or interact with him unless we have to, since we're taking the same uni classes. The thing is, we have the same wider friend group, which I introduced him to, and almost every single time we're all together in university, he acts like he's bothered the fact that I'm existing in his vicinity. However, and that's where I might be the asshole, I refuse to distance myself from my friends who do like me and want me there. Since English is very much not my first language, I'm not sure I've explained myself enough, so feel free to ask for clarification on things. If you're curious as to why we've stopped talking, we were doing something for uni, He acted like he knew how to do something he either didn't actually know how to do or was too nervous to do safely, which is dangerous since we're in healthcare, and I questioned him about it in front of the patient, which was admittedly shitty of me, but again, what he was doing was not safe and I got very nervous. Then he left for about a week, saying he was sick and needed to recover, and during that period I only reached out to him twice, to let him recover in peace, which upset him even more. After that, he started icing me out to the point where I kind of broke down in the middle of the day because I didn't know why he was doing it. I have severe social anxiety and he knew it. The only reason I know any of that is because I confronted him about icing me out, during which I apologized for questioning him in front of the patient and for not trying harder to reach out during the period of time he was gone. He did not accept my apology, which is his right, and he also did not care about the distress he caused me and continued to ice me out from then on. So I pretty much gave up on this 1.5-year friendship, but like I said, I refused to stop hanging out with my friends, because despite his subtle efforts to try and get them to stop being my friends, he has not succeeded in doing that. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for asking to play on my dad's gaming laptop? Okay, so we'll make this short. Right now, I don't have any way to play the Steam games I own. I used to play games on my mother's laptop, but she broke it. And I don't have a strong internet connection right now, so I have to go to an office to use the internet. The last time I was allowed to play on his PC was a year ago for a few days, which I'm pretty sure was a peace offering, because of something horrible he did to our family a year back. But after a few days of letting me play, he restricted access to me since the PC is password protected, so he stopped opening it for me. A year later for my day, I asked for money for Steam so I could use it when I buy my own laptop, but in the meantime I asked him if I could play on his. The first response, "I'll think ABT it." I asked the day after, "Don't pressure me, I'm not like your mom." I asked again after an entire day, he ignored me and I said, "Is that just a no?" He said he doesn't know where his charger is. I told him where it was, then he said it wasn't updated, since no internet. Then after he finished updating it with his hotspot, I asked if I could use it. He said no because I was going to take it to the office, which he didn't want me to do. I was only going to bring it once so I could get the games and play them offline when I got back. Took me 8 days to get a no. I then told my mom I finally got a straight answer and she complained to me in front of him that I should have expected it, and he got angry too because I complained to her and told me I was definitely not playing on it because I was bugging them, and said he's going to sell it or put it back in storage. Most likely just so I can't use it. We are on very bad terms. Now keep in mind I have been going up and beyond for him, making him breakfast and coffee. I have been doing tons of chores without being asked. I even spent 2 hours scrubbing the hard water that was caked onto the toilet with a steel sponge and no gloves. Also keep in mind he never uses the laptop. It's over $1,000. I checked. And when he does, he plays games that hardly utilize the laptop or watches anime, and the last time he used it was 1 to 2 years ago. And I mostly asked to play on it to play games with my siblings. Like I said, I worked more than often for 8 days waiting for a yes or no, and I got a no even though he got the PC out of storage, charged it and updated it just to say no to me and get me in trouble after I was upset after he said no. Yes, I was sulking, but he was pretty much dangling in my face like a kiddie treat, so obviously I was upset after he made it seem like I would be able to play when he knew he wouldn't let me. Maybe he will let me play on Christmas. I get I was annoying and I was sulking and it's his PC, but I did so much and was very patient and asked very nicely. I just wanted to play with my siblings. AITA, am I the asshole for accidentally insulting my friend's disability? I, 22M, was in the group chat with my friends, and I sent a video that made me mad because I take offense to people who fake having disabilities. A video about the transblind community, a community that believes that they are blind in one or both eyes or desires it without actually being blind. My friend, who will be called William, 21M, misunderstood the video, believing it was a community for blind people. I told him, no, that's not the case. It's for people who want to be blind. That angers me. He then said, there are dumb people on the internet who will just do things for attention. There's nothing to be mad about, really. The two of us have high-functioning autism. I replied, okay, let me put it differently. Imagine someone with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, bipolar, DID, etc., with no evidence to back up their claim. He then said I was insulting someone and he wouldn't tolerate it, and I needed to stop. A few minutes later, I got a DM from one of the members, 21F, who called Heather, saying she was angry at me. I asked her what happened, but nothing came of it. I then got a DM saying I was directing my claim of someone who is disabled with no evidence to support it. And then DM'd me, "How dare you insult my friend for being special needs? We can't help ourselves for having disabilities. We were born with it. Stop fucking doing this shit now, or I am not your friend anymore." I didn't want to get into a fight with him over a simple misunderstanding, and now here is the following conversation with William. "How did I insult Heather? You were saying she would blind herself, is what you said. What made you come to that conclusion? Okay, let me put it differently. Imagine someone with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, bipolar, DID, etc., with no evidence to back up their claim. I did not mention a name or gender in there. It's not that, it's the fact that you said stuff about her on that line. 1. Does Heather have all of that listed? 2. I wasn't trying to target anyone specific. I then got a message from Heather herself saying, "I have all of the disabilities you said, along with hard of hearing, and if you insult me, I will give you hell." After hearing that, I just replied, "Okay, that's all I wanted to know. I apologize and it will not happen again. Are we cool?" William said yes, but Heather only said yes because it was the holidays. Feeling like I had just made her cry, I asked if she would genuinely forgive me for what I said, and she replied, "We'll see if you behave yourself." After persuasion for her genuine answer, she said, "In my dyslexia mindset." Now confused and crying my eyes after feeling like a huge jerk, I asked again, and she just said she was busy. In conclusion, am I the asshole for accidentally insulting my friend about something I didn't know they were sensitive about without any knowledge about it? Edit. I got kicked out for what happened. Am I the asshole for not inviting my friend for a party? I, 22F, am used to throw some party at my place for multiple occasions. My birthday, Halloween, but mostly New Year. New Year's party can be kinda stressful because of all the preparation. I'm also very social, which means my friend group tends to usually evolve, but also that my friends can have really different personality. This year's, I wanted to throw a party with some friends I've met 2 to 3 years ago. We all met because one common friend reunited us all, then we just sticked around all together. I love this group very much as I talk to them regularly, and we often see each other. We did last year's party together and it went super well, so I wanted to do it again this year. Now, for the issue, I've invited some friend of mine, let's call him A, that is not from this group itself. A is a friend I've met 7 years ago, and even if we don't see as often than before, we're still in touch and have a good vibe. He had a girlfriend which I became also friend with. Though we didn't talk much outside of the little sleepover we do when I visit them, she's cool and the vibe is nice. The thing is, they broke up recently after 4 years together. I don't think we could say they're on good terms, but they stay cordial to each other to keep the peace. I wanted to invite A to the party, because I know he would love to see people during New Year's. Because of some issues in his couple, he didn't went outside much, and I know he misses partying, playing with people, etc. I thought it could be nice to invite him and help him change his mind. Now, I didn't invited his ex. Even though I'm still friend with her, I didn't for several reasons. I know she doesn't like partying with a lot of people she doesn't know, don't like board games, which we will probably play throughout the night, and doesn't like just going out much. She also told me through a conversation that she wouldn't go out on the 31 because she works that day and will be tired. So I just didn't invited her. The thing is, she eventually found out I was partying at home with friends plus A and told me it wasn't cool to not invite her. I explained her the reasons, which she told me she feels left out, and took it personal because though I didn't want to invite her because she's not with it anymore, or that I would though that she wasn't worth it. I explained her my sided and agreed with my points, but it still feels like she's kinda mad and disappointed. I think I'm not really in the wrong here, but the question still subsists in my mind. Should I have told her that I was planning a party she wasn't invited to? I already was planning to see her another day, so I didn't felt it was necessary. Was I in the wrong here? Am I the asshole to ask my boyfriend to remove his ex from his phone plan? My boyfriend's ex-girlfriend is on his phone plan, and he gave her until November to find a way to pay it on her own. They broke up in September and we started dating in November. He told me he wants to reach out and let her know she has until the end of December until he removes her from his plan, and said if she asked for more time he thinks he would give it to her. BC, he would feel like the Grinch cutting off her phone during the holidays. He also said he thinks she might be dragging her feet about it to stay tied to him in some way. He asked if I was okay with that and said he wouldn't give her more time if I said not to. I don't want to be cruel and mean, but obviously a part of me doesn't like it and thinks she refuses to get her own to mess with him / stay in his life in some way. Am I the asshole to ask him to remove her ASAP? Or at least by the end of the month? Am I the asshole I left my debate partner for 5 minutes? Am I the asshole? My speech and debate partner, both of us female, had just had a huge argument and I need you fellow Redditors' help. Recently me and my duet partner, who we'll call Charlie, made it to finals in a huge speech and debate tournament. This was incredible and made us understandably excited. However, I also made it to finals in some of my other events as well, 9, prose, impromptu, and humorous. I expected her to be excited for me for making it to the finals for so many events, and she was, for a bit. The way my schedule worked, I'd have to do my 9 finals first at 1 o'clock and then have my duet finals with Charlie at 3 o'clock. This seemed perfect. I'd have plenty of time in between, or so I thought. 9 ran late and I happened to be the last speaker. In the end, I finished up with 9 at 3:02, meaning Charlie would already be waiting for me. I sprinted as fast as I could in my heels to the duet final, making it in at 3:05. I burst inside, apologized and explained my circumstances to the judge, who was very understanding, then did my performance with Charlie. However, she was noticeably pissed at me. It was glaringly obvious even as we preformed. The second we finished and the judge excused us, she blew up on me. Charlie said I was a bitch for showing up late to our finals even though I was cross-entered. She said I shouldn't have signed up for 9 in the beginning, despite knowing how much I love it, if I was going to be doing an event involving her. I feel horrible. AITA? Am I the asshole for insisting I make my own dessert for Christmas? For Christmas, Dad wants to make the chocolate cake. However, the issue is that we already had it for the Christmas gathering for his side of the family 2 days ago, and I don't want it again. I want something different. However, he is insistent that he make it again because it would be easier and he is working on Christmas Eve. The issue started due to a miscommunication when Dad went shopping. Initially, Mom was planning to make salad to take, but then my aunt changed plans and asked us to bring an appropriate dessert for me, so I decided I will make my own dessert. I strongly dislike repetition and like trying new things. I would rather make my own dessert, lemon meringue pie. I plan to buy the ingredients while I am in the city because I want to see the Christmas displays in the CBD this Christmas. We fought and Dad is insistent I talk to Mom when she comes home. Likely, she will say the same thing as him, and I don't want to make her more stressed. I plan to make what I can for the dessert as soon as I come home, so it's ready for Christmas Day. I am concerned that I may be in the wrong, given how stressed my parents are now. However, I see it as taking the load off them while also trying something different. Am I the asshole for wanting to do something different? Edit. This won't be the only dessert being offered. It's one that'll fit my dietary requirements. I have made lemon meringue pie twice before. Am I the asshole for just wanting to be friends for fun and not financially benefit? Alright, so my friend and I have been friends since primary school. We are both 25 now. We used to be good friends, and as we aged he started asking me how is he benefiting from our friendship, like what does he gain from being friends with me. It has been a back and forth uncomfortable vibe ever since, with him needing me to provide some kind of benefit to the relationship more than just being friends and hanging out. I've been trying to get close with him again, but the tension just never fades. He does make a lot more money than me, but I take care of myself. Do friends need to provide stuff like that? I was hoping my friendship would be enough. I want our old friendship back. Am I the asshole, or what can I do? He has brushed it off when I try and talk about it. First time poster stray for mistakes. TLDR. Old friend wants extra gain above friendship to be friends? Am I the asshole if I withheld my brother's Christmas gifts? Little bit of context. My younger brother lives about an hour away from me. I'm currently living with my parents because shit is expensive and I'm broke, so I'm staying home, working and saving money. My parents have always been good to my siblings and I, and for a while even paid my brother's rent. Which I don't think they should have, but whatever. My brother hasn't been home in 3 months, but promised to come home for Christmas. Well, just yesterday, he dropped a bombshell that he is not coming home for Christmas and did not provide a reason why. He's been very secretive lately and has been getting into drugs and alcohol. He has a girlfriend but refuses to tell our poor mom about it. He only told our dad. He's also made very little effort to come home or be a part of the family. He came home for my birthday this year and didn't get me anything except for a gift card for a place I don't go to that he got from walking to the corner store on the day of. Anyway, he said he's not coming home for Christmas and made mom cry for the umpteenth time. And it genuinely pissed me off because mom and dad have done so much for him and he can't even be bothered to come home for one day. So I've debating maybe I should just say fuck it, he doesn't get the presents I've got him. If he isn't gonna make the bare minimum to show some appreciation to the parents that have paid his goddamn rent, he doesn't get any gifts. So, am I the asshole if I did this? TLDR, my brother makes no effort to show appreciation for my parents paying his rent and made my mom cry by not coming home for Christmas. So I don't want to give him his presents. Ever. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole if I did not spend Christmas with my alcoholic mother? I am a daughter of an alcoholic. I love her. I truly do. But after dealing with her anger issues and alcoholism all my childhood and teenage years all my life, I don't like her. I don't like her when she drinks. I hate her, in fact. She loves me so much, but she loves the bottle too much. She promised me she wouldn't overdo it this Christmas, and yet here she is, drunk, guilt-tripping me. I helped her clean the whole apartment today. Her kitchen and bathroom were a biohazard, but I was determined to make this work, as long as she's at least somewhat sober. Well, I started noticing her acting strange, slurring her words, doing meaningless tasks her usual drunk self, and distanced myself from her in hopes that she'll fall asleep soon and wake up the next morning sober. But she had to confront me and ask me why I'm so cold towards her, and I couldn't lie. I told her I don't like spending time with her when she's drunk. Plain and simple, I really didn't want to get into the specifics of why I hate it. She started guilt-tripping me, essentially telling me she has the right to drink when she wants and I don't have the right to complain about it because she is funding my university education. I just went to my room. I have CPTSD/BPD due to her past abuse, and I did not want to risk getting into further conflict with her, as that could cause me to have a full-blown mental breakdown. A few minutes later she came in and told me she didn't want to celebrate Christmas with me, nor with my dad anymore. I know she's not going to feel the same tomorrow. She probably won't remember this, but I will. And I am seriously considering just packing my bags and going back home to my apartment or to spend Christmas with my BF's family. I know it would break her heart, my dad's as well, but I can't let her keep breaking mine. Would I be the asshole if I left and did not spend Christmas with my family? Am I the asshole for telling my brother he could exchange the clothes I gave him for Christmas if it didn't fit him? I hadn't, 29M, seen my brother, 26M, in a while and met him at our parents' place for an early Christmas celebration. I will be traveling with my boyfriend to spend Christmas Eve with his family. I had bought my brother some t-shirts from a studio I know he likes, but I didn't know he had gained a lot of weight this past year. So when I handed him the gift, I was sort of apologetic beforehand. Like, listen, you can exchange it if it doesn't fit. My brother then said I didn't need to call him out like that in front of everyone, which surprised me. Yes, other people were around, like everyone in our family, but I'm not sure if anyone else overheard me. They seemed busy exchanging their own gifts. But I wasn't in any way commenting on his weight or anything. I was just wanting to make sure he could use my gift. I apologized and he just said whatever and acted a bit cold towards me from then on. Am I the asshole for buying my sister books that our parents say are inappropriate for her? My little sister 12F came out as gay a month ago to me 17M and our parents 47F and 48M. We have no problems with gay people and are very accepting of everybody. But we live in a pretty conservative part of the country and a lot of our friends and family members are pretty conservative. So my sister was scared about coming out and worried that maybe we wouldn't accept her. But we of course did, and we all promised her that we loved her just the same, and we absolutely do. She was still scared, but our mom promised her that we wouldn't tell anyone she was gay without her permission, and that if anyone didn't approve we would tell them there's the door. Overall, I think we've adjusted to it good and my sister feels safe. A week ago, she told me she wanted to start reading some scary books with gay characters. She said she didn't care what kind of horror, it was just that it was scary and had gay characters. I told her I would get some for her at the bookstore I got to on weekends as an early Christmas present. So today I went there and asked the owner, I go there a lot and he and me have kind of become friends, if he had any horror books with gay characters. He showed me books called Exquisite Corpse, Cuckoo, and Manhunt. I went ahead and bought all three because I thought my sister would love them. When I got home, I went to show them to my sister and our parents asked to see them. I showed them the books and my mom took Exquisite Corpse and said she had read it before and that it wasn't appropriate. My sister and my dad agreed. She asked me to go to my room. While they looked up the books later, they asked me to come down and said there was no way they were letting my sister read those books because they were very inappropriate for her. I said I was sorry and that I just wanted to get my sister the books she wanted. They just asked me to go to my room because they were very upset. My sister saw this from the kitchen and looked like she was going to cry. She said she was sorry and didn't mean to cause an argument. Our parents tried to comfort her, but she just ran up to her room. I didn't mean to upset our parents, I just wanted to get her books with gay characters like she wanted, but now our parents are upset, and my sister is upset, because she feels like she caused this AITA. Update. I talked to my parents about why they think the books are inappropriate for my sister and they said they're too mature for a 12-year-old, and after having looked up some of the books and read some reviews on them, yeah, I agree. The only one my mom had read was Exquisite Corpse and she said the content is way too mature for my sister and the characters are horrible people and it's very depressing, so I'm glad they saw the books first and said no. I apologized to them and told them I never meant to get her books that were so inappropriate. They accepted my apology and said it was okay, it was just a mistake. We all talked to my sister and told her the fight was just because I made a mistake and got her books that are too inappropriate for her and it wasn't her fault at all. And we reassured her that we will always love and protect her. She felt better and said she loved us too. We all gave her lots of hugs and kisses and I told her I would take the books back and get her some more scary books with gay characters that were appropriate for her age. I got a few good recommendations on here, so I'll check those out. Thank you. Am I the asshole for refusing to take care of my sick grandma because she refused to seek further medical attention? So just for some context, my grandma has pneumonia, kidney failure, and high blood pressure. She always breathes weirdly, almost sounding like a velociraptor rattling from the Jurassic Park. She also complains about frequent cramps around her waist area. She complains about difficulty using the bathroom and peeing. She also has very weak muscles and frequently needs assistance for things like getting up from the couch, walking, and she also uses a cane. The doctor said that she was too old to get a kidney transplant, and instead she would need frequent dialysis. She's not on any active treatment right now because her diagnosis was around a week or two ago, so talks with the doctor and the hospital are still going on. Anyways, I've tried to be helpful to her. My parents forced me to spend the majority of my school winter break over at her house and take care of her. I feel really sympathetic towards her situation. I can only imagine how difficult it would feel to not be able to use many different normal body functions and for your body to slowly collapse on you. She said her medication, which were some prescribed pills from the doctor, were not working. She said they in fact made her worse. I was skeptical and thought it was because she didn't take the required dose, which was 2 pills, and she would usually only take 1 pill. On some days, she doesn't even take the pills. I figured that she had better knowledge than me and that the medication truly didn't work for her. I suggested she schedule another appointment with her doctor in a few days to discuss different treatments or medications. She denied, refusing the hospital would be no help and that it was her body. I got frustrated. This is also the point where she got very needy with her requests. What went from get me a bottle of water and help me get up went to close the door, turn off the lights, make me some soup, tell me to help her get up every 5 to 10 minutes, and a million other things like I was her maid. She would ask for me to do things way more as well. Don't get me misunderstood. I'm willing to help her out, but I'm not going to be on a minute's notice and do every little thing. Not only is that inconsiderate of me because I'm taking my own break time to take care of her, but it isn't helpful in the long term. What would be more helpful is to go to the hospital and get taken care of appropriately to strengthen and recover so you can respectfully do those damn things yourself. I'm not leaving her unattended. I'm not doing many things for her, but I have expressed my opinion to her, and she just seems frustrated. I told her if this continues I would just leave and go back to my house. I don't know how to move forward from here. I also don't know if I'm in the wrong for not doing everything for her. Am I the asshole for expecting my husband to bother to read the Christmas list? Am I the asshole for being upset my husband didn't read my Christmas list? I'm a 34F and husband is 36M. He runs his own business and has for the past 4 years. It's a lot of stress and it's been a particularly hard year due to a tax situation and lawsuit. Prior to that, it's been pretty straightforward, operates in the black and supports its own costs. He works 50 to 70-hour weeks regularly, including weekends. I work a straightforward 40 hours a week job. For the entirety of our relationship, I've been adamant that certain things matter to me. I don't force celebrating anniversaries or Valentine's Day. I care about my birthday, Christmas, and family. This year, as it's been a hard year and he's had a lot of stress, I made him a very explicit Christmas list per his request. I listed exactly where the items I wanted were and where it's the cheapest price. Today he told me he got the main gift wrong. He went to a box retailer to purchase it instead of what was listed. It was not available or on sale in stores. Hence me providing the list earlier and with the specifics of the sale cost. He said it was because he couldn't go to the store it was at, indicated he didn't actually read it because it again was an online sale. He did admit he didn't read it. This isn't even a luxury item. It's a vacuum, but a fancier and more feature-laden model than what I would purchase for our house. Under $200. When I told him this frustrates me, I feel it's just been pushed back on me. That I'm upset over a gift, that he thought we were adults. When I told him I was upset that I went so far to compromise on meeting what his needs were just to be told, he couldn't bother to read what I wrote. I get met with, if that's what you think. I've told him stories about how my mom would tell me about how she got Tupperware from my dad as gifts and knew he didn't care about her before they got divorced. I've always drawn the line about shopping for myself on his behalf. I told him I have always expected some level of thoughtfulness. Am I the asshole for thinking it's not too much to ask that if you ask for a list you read it? Am I the asshole for trying to make amends with my sister? So, the short story is I'm 31M. Am trying to reconnect with my sister, 23F, and be the uncle to her kid, 3M. She's always needed me to be. She refuses to let me back into her life, even in the holiday season to spend time with her kid and her girlfriend, 21F. The longer version. Basically, we had always had a good, not great, but brother and sister relationship until she got pregnant. She was with a guy I didn't really like. It wasn't planned. They weren't even married. He didn't want to be a dad, and they had a disagreement about the pregnancy. It spun way out of control and split the family up. Some of them sided with her and some of us sided with him, and she made decisions to burn bridges with people who cared about her and her future even if they didn't want to be an uncle. I always left the door open for her and she just never took the effort to step through it. Even when I was more than willing to try to mend fences and help her move on with her life and find a guardian and get back into her old career path. I've been more than willing to try to move back to how things were. She's just always refused for whatever reason. About 10 months ago, she started dating this new girl and she seems, I've only seen her at certain family gatherings, but she seems really good for Steph. She's got it all. She's kind and sweet. She's not bad looking. Very not bad looking. She's doting on the kid. I've never gotten to speak to her, but I see how she is. Anyway, my sister really lucked out and I'm happy for her little family she's got going on. It's made me reflect on how things have been and I've decided maybe I can do more to step up and be the uncle she wanted me to become. I reached out through mom to try to smooth things out even if just for the holiday. I bought the kid an expensive toy like in the $60 range. I bought some nice 2016 Napa wine. I just asked if I can come to her little home gathering. She shut it down. I wasn't present for the conversation, but mom said she got hostile and said things she didn't really mean. I really want to come, but she feels I'm thoroughly a self-centered jerk who wanted her to murder her own child, as it was paraphrased to me. Obviously, I disagree, but she's entitled to her own feelings. What bothers me, though, is that mom seemed to kind of agree with her. She wouldn't admit to it, but it was in the tone. I just want to know, Reddit, was it really so fucking terrible for me to try to help her make the right call? It ruined her career. She quit a few months into the pregnancy and took a job far beneath her education and skill set afterwards. It drove away a man whom, while I didn't much care for him, at least had some self-respect and took good care of her. It did lead her to Tori, but I just don't see how else it hasn't made her life objectively worse. Am I really an asshole just for siding against her? Am I the asshole for not attending Christmas at my brother's after he said terrible things about my wife? My wife and I have been married for almost 5 years now. Like any couple, we've had our ups and downs, and this past summer, we went through one of the toughest periods in our marriage. I made some serious mistakes, including lying to her about our finances, and when I finally came clean, she was deeply hurt and initially wanted to separate. For a while, we were seriously considering divorce. During that difficult time, my brother, who has never seemed to like my wife, decided it was the perfect moment to weigh in on our relationship. He sat me down and shared a laundry list of reasons why he was convinced my wife had narcissistic personality disorder and that I was a victim of abuse. For context, I have experienced narcissistic abuse in the past, both in a previous relationship and with my mother-in-law, so this accusation hit a nerve. Now, let me be clear. While my wife and I both have our flaws, as any couple does, she is not a narcissist, nor is she abusive. My brother's claims were baseless, and his timing felt opportunistic. He didn't offer any real evidence or examples to support his accusations. It seemed more like a personal attack on her character. What made it worse was the fact that nobody else in the family shares his opinion of my wife. My parents, siblings, and other family members have always gotten along with her and expressed nothing but support for our relationship. At the time, I was already overwhelmed with guilt over my own mistakes and the strain I had caused in our marriage, so hearing these accusations from my brother felt like an extra blow. I did my best to address his concerns calmly, explaining why I didn't agree with his assessment of my wife. By the end of the conversation, I thought we had reached a good understanding. I hoped that would be the last time he brought it up, especially since it wasn't helpful or productive. Fast forward 6 months, and things couldn't be more different. My wife and I decided to fight for our marriage. We started marriage counseling and also began individual therapy, and the progress we've made has been incredible. Our relationship is now stronger and healthier than it's ever been. We've rebuilt trust, communication, and intimacy, and I can honestly say we've never been more in love. It feels like we've turned a corner, and I'm proud of the work we've both put in to get here. The rest of my family has been very supportive throughout this process. They've been rooting for us and made it clear they're happy to see us staying together and thriving. That's why it came as such a shock when my brother decided to revisit his issues with my wife just a week before Christmas. Out of nowhere, he told me he was still concerned about me and doubled down on his belief that my wife is a mean, selfish person who doesn't care about anyone. When I asked him for specific examples of what he meant, he could only point to 2 instances. First, that he overheard her venting about an old boss during a conversation with my mother. She wasn't being nasty or cruel, just expressing relief about leaving a difficult job for a better one. And second, that I've changed since being with her, though he couldn't explain how or why that was a bad thing. Frankly, it feels like he's grasping at straws. It's clear to me that he simply doesn't like my wife, but I don't know why. She's always been polite and kind to him and the rest of my family. She's not perfect, neither am I, but she's far from the person he's trying to paint her as. I can't help but feel like he's projecting something onto her or letting his own biases cloud his judgment. Here's where the conflict comes in. My brother has been hosting Christmas at his house for the past few years, and this year is no exception. Normally, I would look forward to spending the holiday with my parents, grandmother, and siblings, but I don't feel comfortable bringing my wife into a home where the host clearly dislikes her and thinks so poorly of her character. It's one thing for my brother and me to have our differences, but it's another to subject my wife to that kind of environment, especially after everything we've been through and the progress we've made. I've decided that, for this year at least, it would be best for my wife and me to skip Christmas at my brother's house. This decision makes me sad because I genuinely want to spend the holiday with my parents and grandmother. I also feel bad about potentially disrupting family traditions or causing tension. But at the same time, I need to prioritize my wife's comfort and well-being. I don't want her to feel unwelcome or judged, especially during a time that's supposed to be about love and togetherness. To be clear, I'm not saying we'll never attend another family gathering. I value my family and hope we can move past this in the future. I just think that Given how fresh this conflict is, it would be healthier for everyone involved if we sat this one out. So, am I the asshole for skipping Christmas at my brother's house to avoid putting my wife in an uncomfortable situation? Or should I suck it up for the sake of the family and try to smooth things over? Am I the asshole for refusing to accept my mother's guilt gift? I'm an 18-year-old woman, and my relationship with my mom has been strained for a while, especially after a falling out that happened around my 18th birthday. For some context, I had made plans for my birthday ahead of time and invited my family, letting them know what I had planned. My sister even came over to spend the night at my dad's place after my mom told her she could leave for the weekend. But things took a turn when my mom suddenly called my sister back home to go on a family vacation to the Wisconsin Dells. A vacation that included my mom, her 3 sisters, and my brother, 19M. The kicker? I wasn't invited. Naturally, I was hurt. It's one thing to have plans that don't involve me, but this was a family vacation planned on my birthday weekend, and I wasn't even told about it. Thankfully, my sister chose to stay with me and went shopping with me for my birthday, which helped make the day a little better. Still, the whole situation stung. Over the next few months, things between my mom and me went from bad to worse. She started spreading false information about me, saying hurtful things to my sisters to turn them against me, and even began actively blocking me from seeing them. Then, there was an incident where my brother attacked my dad, and somehow my mom blamed me for it. On top of that, Child Protective Services got involved regarding my sisters and their abusive stepmother, and once again, my mom decided that it was all my fault, even though I had nothing to do with it. Things escalated even further when my mom took me to court to get an order of protection, OP, against me. It felt like everything she could possibly do to alienate me or paint me as the villain she was doing. It was exhausting and heartbreaking, especially since I didn't start or cause any of these issues. Fast forward to Christmas time. I was at my grandmother's house, spending time with my siblings. It had been months since I'd seen 2 of the 3 of them, so I was glad for the chance to reconnect. While we were there, my mom asked my grandma what I might want for Christmas, saying she felt guilty because she hadn't gotten me anything yet. I immediately rejected the idea of accepting a gift from her. I told her no because I know how she operates. Any gift from her comes with strings attached. She would flip it around and make it seem like I owe her something in return, and I didn't want to give her that power over me. When I declined, she called me rude and entitled. She also said that if anything ever happened to me, I'd be the first person she'd call, which isn't entirely true. She only said that because she knows she holds certain information about me, like my family medical history, my birth certificate, and my vaccination records, and refuses to give it to me. She's using that as leverage to maintain control. At this point, I feel like I've done everything I can to set boundaries with my mom, but she continues to try to manipulate me and twist situations to make me look like the bad guy. Refusing her gift felt like a way to protect myself from further emotional manipulation, but now I'm second-guessing if I was being too harsh. So, am I the asshole for refusing to accept my mom's Christmas gift, knowing her history of guilt-tripping and manipulation? Or should I have just taken it to keep the peace? Am I the asshole for choosing my baby's name without the help of the father? Before anyone judges or jumps to conclusions, I'd like to ask that you please address the question I'm asking without delving into my personal life beyond what I've shared here. Parenting doesn't come with a rule book, and this situation is complicated. I'm just looking for honest feedback about whether I'm in the wrong in this specific scenario. I'm currently 6 months pregnant, and my child's father has been mostly uninvolved throughout this journey. He talks about what he plans to do as a father once the baby is born, but his actions so far haven't matched his words. From the start, I've handled this pregnancy on my own. I've attended every single doctor's appointment alone, made all the necessary preparations, and dealt with the emotional and physical toll of pregnancy without his support. Early in my pregnancy, things took a stressful turn when genetic testing revealed potential risks for spinal muscular atrophy and sickle cell. These conditions are serious, and the doctors and I needed his cooperation to confirm whether the baby was actually at risk. Because we live in different states, he would have had to provide a genetic sample by mail. However, he outright refused, citing concerns that I would use the opportunity to put him on child support. Let me be clear, I don't need his money. I come from a background where I've worked hard to establish myself financially. I have multiple degrees, several trades under my belt, assets, and a strong support network. I'm more than capable of providing for this child on my own. What I needed from him wasn't financial assistance. It was emotional and practical involvement. I wanted him to show up and demonstrate that he cared about the well-being of our baby. My requests were simple and, in my opinion, reasonable. I asked him to complete the genetic testing, attend key medical appointments, and participate in meaningful moments like the gender reveal. Most importantly, I asked him to avoid causing unnecessary stress, especially given the health concerns we were facing. Despite all this, he refused to participate in the genetic testing. His reasoning: he believed that his role as a father doesn't begin until the baby is born. So, I shouldered everything on my own. I went to appointments, had multiple blood draws, drove across town to see specialists, and navigated a complex medical system to ensure that my baby would be healthy. It was exhausting and emotionally draining, but I did it because it was what needed to be done. Eventually, I received the wonderful news that my baby is healthy, and I shared the results with him. I thought this might be a turning point, but instead, he acted as if nothing had happened. There was no acknowledgement of the stress I'd endured or the fact that he had chosen not to contribute during such a critical time. Fast forward to now, it's time to name the baby. Suddenly, he's interested and wants to be involved in choosing her name. While I understand that this is a significant and symbolic moment for many parents, I can't help but feel conflicted. Naming our child feels like one of the most personal and important decisions I'll make as her mother. To me, it's about more than just picking a name. It's about reflecting the love and commitment I've already poured into this child throughout the pregnancy. I've already chosen a name for her, one that I believe suits her and holds meaning for me. And honestly, I feel that his sudden eagerness to be involved now doesn't outweigh the months of absence and indifference he's shown. I believe that you can't pick and choose when to be a parent. Just as I don't have the option to stop being a mother during the hard times, he shouldn't get to step in only for the fun, symbolic moments. His role as a father should have begun months ago, not just when it's convenient or exciting for him. For me, this isn't about punishing him or being spiteful. It's about acknowledging the reality of our situation. I've been the one showing up, making decisions, and taking responsibility for our child's well-being from the very beginning. If he wanted a say in naming her, he should have shown the same commitment and care when it came to her health. So, am I the asshole for deciding to name my baby without his input? Am I being unfair, or am I justified in feeling that he forfeited his right to have a say by not stepping up when it mattered most? Am I the asshole for not attending my family's Christmas gathering because I can't afford the $250 white elephant gift? I am a 29-year-old woman, and my family has a long-standing tradition of hosting a big Christmas gathering every year. It's a time when everyone gets together, enjoys great food, celebrates the holiday spirit, and participates in our highlight activity, the White Elephant Gift Exchange. This tradition has always been fun, lighthearted, and something I genuinely look forward to each year. However, this year things took an unexpected turn. My family decided to raise the price limit for the White Elephant gift to an eye-watering $250. Yes, you read that right, $250 for a single gift. I was honestly shocked when I first heard about it. While I understand that inflation has increased the cost of just about everything, this new price limit feels extreme. The White Elephant Exchange has always been about quirky, humorous, and creative gifts, not extravagant or overly expensive ones. It feels like the entire spirit of the game has shifted to something far more materialistic than what it used to be. For context, I'm currently in a pretty tough spot financially. This year has thrown a lot of unexpected expenses my way, including significant medical bills and the usual cost of living, which feels like it's constantly rising. Once I pay for my rent, groceries, utilities, and other essential bills, I'm left with very little disposable income. To put it plainly, spending $250 on a single gift is just not in the realm of possibility for me right now. Even if I could scrape together that kind of money, it would mean sacrificing other important needs, and frankly, That's not something I'm willing to do for one evening's event. When I first heard about the new price limit, I tried to stay open-minded and think about alternatives. I figured maybe I could talk to my family and suggest a more reasonable approach, like lowering the limit or allowing for some flexibility so that everyone could participate comfortably. But when I brought up my concerns, the response was less than understanding. My mom dismissed my concerns outright, saying I was being petty and making a big deal out of just one gift. She argued that it's Christmas, and the gift exchange is meant to be fun, so I should stop overthinking it. My dad chimed in with his own perspective, saying I was missing the point and that the holiday season isn't about money but about togetherness and joy. While I can agree with the sentiment in theory, it feels hypocritical to hear that message when a $250 gift is being treated as the new standard. Some of my siblings have also weighed in, and their opinions are mixed. A few of them agree that the new price limit is excessive and makes participation difficult, but they've decided to go along with it anyway because they don't want to cause a stir or go against the majority. Others think I'm overreacting and should just suck it up for the sake of tradition. They've told me to think about how much the gathering means to everyone and to focus on the bigger picture. But it's hard to feel like part of the celebration when the financial burden being placed on me feels so out of reach. What's also making this situation even harder to swallow is that the white elephant exchange isn't the only gift-giving expectation. On top of the $250 gift, we're still expected to bring smaller gifts for various family members. When I add up the costs, it feels overwhelming. I'm already stretching my budget thin to make ends meet, so adding all these extra expenses into the mix is just not feasible. I tried explaining to my mom how this whole situation makes me feel. I told her that I feel excluded from the tradition because of my financial situation, and it's upsetting to think that I might have to sit on the sidelines while everyone else exchanges their expensive gifts. I also mentioned that being there without a gift would make me feel embarrassed and out of place. But instead of trying to understand where I was coming from, she insisted that I was being dramatic. Her response made me feel even worse, like my concerns weren't valid or worth considering. I've thought long and hard about what to do, and at this point, I'm leaning towards skipping the gathering altogether. It's not because I don't want to see my family or celebrate Christmas with them. It's because I don't want to put myself in a situation where I feel stressed, uncomfortable, and financially overburdened. I also don't want to sit there awkwardly watching everyone else exchange gifts while I'm unable to participate. The whole point of the white elephant game is to join in and have fun. But how can I enjoy myself if I can't even afford to play by the new rules? To clarify, the $250 price limit wasn't just a suggestion. It's the amount my family agreed upon as the minimum for the gift. There doesn't seem to be a maximum, which only adds to the pressure to buy something impressive. I've tried to explain my point of view, but it feels like I'm being dismissed at every turn. It's frustrating and disheartening, especially since Christmas is supposed to be about love, generosity, and spending time with the people who matter most. So now I'm left wondering, am I the asshole for choosing to sit this one out? Am I overreacting? Or is it reasonable to feel like this price limit is too much? I don't want to cause drama, but I also don't want to put myself in a situation where I feel financially and emotionally drained. I would love some perspective on this. Am I the asshole for wanting my husband to stop treating me like an incubator? I am a 29-year-old woman, currently 9 months pregnant with my husband's baby. My husband is 37 years old and has been wanting a child for years. He is over the moon about becoming a father, and his excitement is evident whenever he talks about our future with the baby. Let me start by saying that my husband has many wonderful qualities. He genuinely cares about me in a lot of practical and tangible ways. He loves to cook and frequently prepares delicious meals for us. He keeps the house clean and organized, which I really appreciate, especially as my pregnancy progresses and daily tasks become harder for me. He makes an effort to make me feel special on holidays or special occasions by planning thoughtful surprises. He has a great sense of humor and can lighten the mood in tough moments. Financially, he is the sole provider during my pregnancy, as he earns a high salary working in his family's business. This has allowed me to focus on taking care of myself and the baby without worrying about money. However, my husband is also incredibly stubborn, strongly opinionated, and emotionally distant at times. These traits have been challenging for our relationship in general, but they've become much more pronounced during my pregnancy. While he is thrilled about the idea of having a child, he seems to have no interest in the actual process of pregnancy or the emotional and physical challenges that come with it. It feels like he's checked out of this part entirely. For example, he has never accompanied me to a single ultrasound appointment. I've invited him multiple times, hoping he might want to experience those moments with me, but he always refuses. When I try to share updates or talk about anything related to the pregnancy, whether it's the baby's development, my symptoms, or even just little milestones, his response is usually a disinterested, "Oh, huh." It's clear he doesn't see the significance of these moments the way I do. What's even more hurtful is how dismissive he is of my experiences. He doesn't acknowledge the sacrifices or challenges of pregnancy and insists that, if he were the one going through it, he'd handle it much better than I do, without letting it disrupt his life. I've told him that these comments are hurtful, but he doesn't seem to care. If I mention discomfort or struggles, like back pain, exhaustion, or the emotional toll of carrying a child, he tells me I'm just fat and need to work out more. For context, I already work out 3 times a week, drink protein shakes, and am still quite small for being 9 months pregnant. His comments are not only dismissive but also entirely unfounded. I've tried to express to him how much it hurts that I can't share this part of my life with him. Pregnancy is such a monumental experience for me, and I wish he could appreciate that. He has told me very matter-of-factly that pregnancy itself is not worth any kind of appreciation. In his words, he'll appreciate me after I've successfully given birth. Until then, he doesn't think there's anything to admire or support beyond the basics. A few nights ago, I tried to open up to him about my anxieties regarding postpartum recovery. I told him that I'm nervous because I've heard it gets more painful with each subsequent birth. Instead of offering any comfort or engaging in the conversation, he ignored me entirely and stopped talking. When I expressed how much it hurts that I can't even share my worries with him, he coldly told me that I should talk about things that interest him instead. At that moment, I felt a wave of frustration and sadness that had been building for months. I snapped and told him that seeing other women with emotionally supportive partners made me regret getting pregnant with someone who treats me like an incubator and mocks me. He got upset and said my comment was uncalled for. He argued that he does support me in ways that many husbands don't, by cooking, cleaning, and financially providing for me. He believes that his practical support should be enough and that I'm being unreasonable for wanting emotional support as well. Now I'm left feeling conflicted. On the one hand, I recognize that my husband does a lot for me, and in many ways, he is more supportive than other husbands might be. But on the other hand, I feel incredibly lonely and isolated in this pregnancy. It's heartbreaking that I can't share this life-changing experience with the person I'm supposed to be closest to. His dismissal of my emotions and his refusal to engage in anything related to the pregnancy makes me feel like I'm nothing more than a vessel for his child. So, am I the asshole for wanting emotional support from my husband, even though he supports me in practical ways? Is it unreasonable to want him to care about my experience as a pregnant woman? Or should I just accept that this is how he shows his love? My mom's old friend was being a jerk to my animals, so I punished him when I was 11. When I was 11, my mom had this friend that was really annoying around his 40s, and he had a job interview around where we live, and they were in a high school friend group together, so she just let him stay in our guest room for 4 days while he went to the interviews and all that work stuff. They still talk here and they're now on Facebook, but she even finds him annoying. At the time, we had a cat, Nancy, and our 2 dogs. Our dogs have always been allowed on the couch. They are pretty tiny and we just don't care. But whenever this guy came over, he would try to boss me and my animals around all the time, with pushing them off the couch pretty harshly, and even made weird, unwanted comments to my mom that she would get upset at. Being 11, I took advantage of his stay with us with torture. He had to wake up at 6 a.m. one morning, so the night before I kept sneaking out my bedroom window and making his car alarm go off every 20 to 30 minutes for about 3 hours. He thought someone was trying to break into his car, so he spent half the night awake. Then I found out he was allergic to cats, not deathly. And I know this is evil, but I was 11 and didn't think, just a kid being dumb. But he had this stupid bucket hat, so I cut some of my cat Nancy's hair and sprinkled some in his hat and rubbed her all over his pillow in his guest room. The next day he had terrible allergies. His eyes were red and he was all itchy and had to go home 2 days early. And if that wasn't enough, I made a hate page dedicated to Dave with all my friends where we would find weird pictures of him from Facebook and upload them to an old Instagram account calling it Escape Dave. I would share the ACC, but I can't find it anywhere now. Damn, I was an evil kid, so worth it. I'm 25, always considered myself straight, but lately, things have shifted. Hey, let me just put it out there. This is probably one of the most confusing yet exciting things I've ever had to process about myself. I've spent my entire life identifying as straight. I've had girlfriends, good relationships, and even some wild experiences in bed. But here's the thing. A few years ago, something inside me shifted. I started noticing that I get aroused by a specific type of guy, those who are more feminine, more sissy, if you will. And before you assume anything, no, I don't see myself as gay or even fully bisexual. It's not like I'm into guys in general. It's this one very specific dynamic. Here's where it gets interesting. I've been with 2 guys so far. They were very submissive, feminine, and honestly, I liked it. It's not about romance or emotions for me, and I definitely don't enjoy kissing or anything that feels too intimate. What I do enjoy is dominating them, having them submit completely, and embracing that dominant side of myself in the bedroom. Why I'm writing this? Because I'm in a weird place. On one hand, I've always had girlfriends. Some of them were open-minded and adventurous in bed, which I loved. But on the other hand, I've started diving deeper into fantasies around BDSM and domination, and this new dynamic excites me in a way that's hard to describe. I want to explore it more. I feel drawn to pushing my boundaries, trying new things, and going deeper into the world of BDSM. But it's also new and different from what I'm used to. And then there's this lingering question. What does this mean about me? About my sexuality? About my relationships moving forward? My questions: is it okay to embrace this side of myself without feeling like I need to label it? How do I explore this without it affecting my current or future relationships with women? Is this just a phase? Or am I opening a door to something that's always been there but I never acknowledged? I'm curious, confused, and a little bit nervous. But I know one thing for sure. I want to understand myself better and not let fear or judgment stop me from exploring what feels authentic. If you've been through something similar or have any advice, I'd love to hear it. Am I overthinking? Is this just part of growing into myself and my desires? Let me know. Edit. I have never f'd a boy in my life before. I have had BJs given to me. I only f'd girls in my whole life. Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend it didn't look like he knew how to brush his teeth? I, 19, have been dating my boyfriend, 20, for almost a year. Recently, there's been something that's been bothering me more and more, and I'm not sure if I overreacted. I have OCD, and one of my biggest issues is being sensitive to smells, especially body odor. I can't stand any kind of bad smell, and I take hygiene very seriously. It might sound goofy, but it's a big deal for me, which is important to understand for context. My boyfriend is an avid cannabis user, and while I smoke with him, I've noticed something else lately. When we first started dating, I mostly smelled the weed on him, and I wasn't thrilled about it but knew it was something I'd have to adjust to. But after a while, I noticed another smell. It wasn't the weed, but something else, something strange. One day, I pointed out that he had food on his teeth, and when he opened his mouth to clean it, I was horrified. He had bright yellow plaque on the bottom of his teeth. Honestly, it disgusted me. I felt like it was something I couldn't ignore because it was a serious hygiene issue, so I started trying to help him out in subtle ways. I got us both matching mouthwashes, tongue scrapers, and a water flosser, and suggested that we could combine our routines to make it easier. I tried to make it sound casual, but the truth is I just needed his teeth to be cleaner. But it didn't really get better. His teeth seemed to be magnets for food, and every time I noticed something, I would point it out. He'd wipe it away, but the more I pointed it out, the more frustrated he got. He started to get embarrassed, and even though I'd always tell him privately, I could tell it was bothering him. I understand how it might come across as rude, but honestly, I don't want to kiss someone and end up with crumbs or food particles in my mouth, especially if they've been sitting there for a while. The other day, I noticed he had food on his teeth again, and when he wiped it, I saw that his gums were bleeding. I asked him why he was wiping so roughly, and he said he wasn't. That's when I noticed the weird smell again, so I asked him if he brushed his gums. He said he did, and that's when I, in a moment of frustration, blurted out, "Are you sure?" I couldn't take it back after that. He immediately asked what I meant, and I just told him the truth about the smell, the plaque, and the sticky feeling I sometimes get when kissing him. He got upset and told me I was rude for saying he didn't know how to brush his teeth and that plaque was normal. I said yes, it's normal, but his plaque was yellow and built up in a way that seemed like it wasn't being dealt with. He told me I was focusing too much on something so small, but I told him that cleanliness is really important to me. Now he's mad at me, and I'm not sure if I went too far. I don't think I was rude or wrong, but I also know I may have crossed a line. So, AITA for telling him it didn't look like he knew how to brush his teeth? Am I the asshole for telling my brother to screw off after he complained about my wife wearing revealing clothing at home? So, my wife and I are newly married, and we have 3 teenage boys in our blended family. 2 are hers and 1 is mine. We've worked hard to create a sex-positive, body-positive home environment where self-expression is encouraged, and we prioritize body confidence. My wife is very comfortable in her own skin and occasionally wears revealing clothing around the house, like booty shorts or other outfits that some might consider provocative. This is something we're both comfortable with, and it aligns with the values we want to instill in our home and the kids. A few days ago, my brother came over to visit without giving any notice, and he made a comment about my wife's clothing. He said it was inappropriate and that it made him uncomfortable, suggesting that, with 3 teenage boys living in the house, she should be more mindful of what she wore. I immediately told him that this is our home, not his, and that if he has a problem with what she wears, he doesn't need to come over. When he didn't back down, I got more frustrated and told him to screw off. Now, he's upset and accusing me of being disrespectful, saying I'm prioritizing my wife's choices over basic decency for guests and setting a bad example for the kids. A few other family members have chimed in, suggesting that maybe I could have handled the situation more calmly, or that my brother has a point about how my wife's clothing could affect the boys. From my perspective, my wife isn't doing anything wrong. The boys are being raised with a strong emphasis on respecting boundaries, understanding body positivity, and being comfortable with themselves and others. If my brother has an issue with it, I feel like it's his problem, not ours. How do I deal with my 30s F mothers, 60s F, compulsive Marie Kondoing enough to let her back in my place? I've obviously known her my entire life. My mom, 60SF, has some kind of reverse hoarding disorder where she needs to clear everything out of a space. If it exists, it needs to be in a drawer or behind a cabinet. She's constantly bringing things to Goodwill, throwing things out, etc. If random items are visible in an area, she starts to get stressed out. My dad banned her from throwing his tools out, so she hasn't gone in the garage in the last decade. If she's stressed out from something else, she only feels better when she gets rid of items. I spent a large portion of my childhood buying my things back from Goodwill, and it got to a point where the Goodwill didn't touch anything she brought for at least a week so the family could retrieve it. My mom, of course, thinks this is completely normal and modern people just own too many things and have too many attachments. My dad has a shopping addiction, so minus his tools, they're sort of a well-matched set. Neither of them have any impetus to change how they are. I refused to let my mom into my place as an adult as a result. Things came to a head 10 years ago when I had a bunch of telescope lenses sitting on a dresser. Mom sent me a text at work asking me if I was cleaning them. I said no. I got home to find out they'd be brought to Goodwill because she thought they were left out to donate, since she assumed they would have had a place otherwise. I got her a hotel room and told her she couldn't come back inside unless she sought professional help. She responded by willingly staying at a hotel every time she comes to visit and never bringing up this incident. I'm older and getting married, and we intend on having children sooner than later. My mom suddenly expressed concern that I haven't allowed her to stay over in a decade. I reminded her that her throwing things out habit hasn't changed, and I can't leave her unattended in my home. She pointed out she doesn't do this at my brother's house and I shouldn't be afraid of letting her in mine, though I have a sneaking suspicion it's because my SL's parents are locally very influential and my mom is afraid of their opinions of her. Notably, she doesn't stay at my brother's for more than 2 or 3 days at a time, and my brother also owns a very large house with rooms they throw a lot of things into before company comes. I have a 2-bedroom apartment and maximalist decorating style, and my fiancé's parents live overseas and don't speak much English. I would love to come have her stay over, because aside from this we have a good relationship. I would like her to have a normal grandparent relationship with my future children, and I would also like some live-in help after giving birth. I can't because I can't afford to replace everything I don't put in a drawer. Is there any way to proceed besides leaving the boundary where it is and hoping she changes? My husband lies about his past with his girl best friend and his porn relapses. I, 34/F, will start this from the very beginning of our 3.5-year relationship. My husband, 28/M, and I met in August 2019. We started as co-workers, and then we became friends, though we clearly had an interest in each other. I was just working my way out of an abusive relationship that ended January 2020, and he was single. We would have amazing conversations on love, relationships and friendships, and more. We made things clear as to what we were looking for in a relationship, and we definitely took things slow before becoming exclusive in 2021. He told me that he has a childhood best friend, 29/F, and I thought nothing of it because I have male friends as well. We had a conversation about how people are suspicious about male-female friendships with good reason and sometimes with no reason at all. I explained that there are people in those types of friendships who are not worth trusting, but some people are actually real friends. Real friends are not sexual with each other. I also told him that I'm okay with your friend, as long as you are honest about your intentions or your past with her. I also made it clear to him that I don't want to be in a love triangle when you can simply be with her. He told me that they went together in middle school, and it was nothing more than that. That was no big deal to me because that was middle school, and we are all grown now, late 20s, early 30s. I thought we had an understanding, and everything was fine between the three of us. Fast forward approximately 2 years later, 2023. We are married. His best friend helps fund our wedding and honeymoon. I think she is amazing and is so sweet and supportive. Everything is amazing at first. I go on Facebook and I comment something nice on a picture that his friend posted just before my husband and got together and immediately noticed a comment/meme from my husband asking to if he can turn her guts into jello and an *T in her. I was shook and afraid to confront him about it, but I did it. He told me that the post was an accident and that I had nothing to worry about. He couldn't really keep his story straight. He was obviously nervous himself but tried to play it cool. I didn't really know what to believe, so I just moved on from it. A little more about him and our relationship. Now I must say that this man is a very kind, hardworking and supportive husband, father and friend. He takes good care of me and our son. I don't think he's cheating, but I know he is lying. I've caught him in many lies. He was open about his porn addiction before we got married, and I never actually saw it as a problem. I watched porn too, until he taught me more about it. Since he expressed how important it was to overcome this addiction, I've been willing to support him in every way I can. So I became his accountability buddy. The problem is that he lies every time he has a relapse. That's what hurts. I'm not hard on him when he has a relapse. I actually cut him some slack, but I definitely get upset when he lies about it. I hate the lies the most. I'm like, come on now, I know you're embarrassed, but stop lying to me. I ask him, why do you want me to care if you're just going to lie about it? How can I do my job and hold you accountable if you lie? He never has an answer. This has been happening just about every month this year, and I'm tired of it. In July 2024, I got a notification from the No Porn app seeing something regarding a mistress in his notes. I asked him about it, and he told me that I could check it out for myself. Turns out it was a poem about a woman, his best friend. It sounded like. I asked him about it, and he claims he doesn't know what that was about and that he used to write a lot of crazy poems. I thought that was weird, but I let it go. I also stumbled upon an old note to his best friend, confessing his love for her before we got together. I asked him about that too, and he said that was a really old note he wrote when he was desperate and single, and he no longer has those feelings. He swears that he is only in love with me, that there's nothing to worry about, blah blah. Fast forward December 7th, 2024, I received another notification about boobs in Messenger. He offers me his phone to check for myself because once again he doesn't know what I'm talking about. I didn't find the boob comment, but I did find pictures of his best friend naked and saw that same meme from before asking to turn her guts into jello and N*T inside her. Now I'm sure that the pictures were sent before we got together, but he told me they did not have an intimate relationship, and that the comment under her post was an accident, and that I had nothing to worry about, all of which were lies. I had no problem being open and honest about my past relationships, so there was nothing but air and opportunity for him to be honest with me when I asked him in the beginning. I keep showing him how I'm willing to work on certain issues and how open I am to have the hard conversations as long as you're honest. Yet, it seems like most things, if not everything, is a lie. I feel hurt. It's hard to even look at him right now. I'm disgusted. His best friend is supposed to be my friend too. She calls me her sister. But she is naked **** and T***TTY pictures in his phone. So I'm questioning everything. I don't think I could even look at her the same way. I feel so stupid supporting them in the issues they had in their friendship and comforting him as she leaves the country frequently. I feel like I've been pushing them together the whole time. I could only imagine what they have actually done with each other. His best friend also just got married, and my insecurities are telling me that he probably wishes that was him instead. By the way, he does not know that I have seen those pictures yet. I plan to let him know, but I want to tell him when I'm in a better headspace. I am too emotional, disgusted, and angry with him right now, and I don't want to be disrespectful. TLDR, my husband keeps lying about his relapses and his past relationship with his best friend. He has told me on numerous occasions that I have nothing to worry about when it comes to his best friend, but I've seen old love notes, poems, explicit comments, nudes, and a ton of porn. No matter how many times I confront him on things like this, the rabbit hole seems to run deeper with each incident. I want us to work, but he definitely broke my trust. At this point, it is hard to believe anything that comes out of his mouth. Any advice on how I should go about letting him know what I saw? How can I get him to simply be honest? Edited some typos, asterisk, and clarity. I never asked to see his phone, by the way. He offers it to me and tells me to look for myself. I know he isn't cheating on me with her. She works abroad and comes home 2-3x a year. However, I do know that he has constantly lied to me about his past with her. I wouldn't be surprised if he was still in love with her even though she is newly married too. I, 35F, have been seeing my unofficial boyfriend Tim, 38M. For about a year. TLDR. I, 35F, have been seeing my unofficial boyfriend Tim, 38M. For about a year. He's amazing, loving, thoughtful, emotionally available, and great in every way, but I'm feeling conflicted. Part of me wants to commit, but another part of me feels the urge to explore the dating scene and have fun since I never got to do that before. I also find myself nitpicking small things about Tim and questioning my attraction to him. Even though we have great chemistry and fun together, how do I balance wanting something serious with the urge to explore and date around? I, 35F, am in a bit of a confusing situation with my unofficial boyfriend, 38M. We'll call him Tim, and I'm hoping to get some perspective. I have been separated, finalizing divorce, from my husband for a couple of years now, and in that time, I've been seeing Tim, who has honestly been everything I could want in a partner. He's loving, thoughtful, treats me like a queen, satisfies me in every way possible, and really checks off all the boxes. We've been seeing each other for about a year now, and I can genuinely say he's amazing. With that being said, I'm feeling conflicted and confused. Part of me knows that Tim is great for me. He calms me down, understands me, he's emotionally available to me. Yet, another part of me feels like I shouldn't be looking for another serious relationship yet and need to explore more, date around, sleep around, or just enjoy being single for a while. I want to experience the dating scene and just have some fun. I had been with my husband for a long time and didn't have any prior time to have fun. With Tim, I have developed this tendency to let small things, i.e. his haircut, or the fact that he's a lot taller than I am, bother me, small things that make me question whether I want to continue to be in relationship with Tim or if I'm just scared of fully committing or whether I'm just settling. It's not that he's done anything wrong. It's just that I'm struggling with what I truly want. I often find myself convincing myself that I am not attracted to him, but we have amazing sexual chemistry, something that my ex-husband lacked, and I do find his personality very attractive. I feel that I'm very comfortable with him and he's the real deal, but part of me at times feels no excitement or those feelings towards Tim, and I don't know if it's because he's drama-free and I'm used to chaos in my previous relationships. We have a lot of fun together and he is very considerate and loving towards me, hence why I feel torn between being with someone who is incredible and ready for a future with me and is everything that I look for in a life partner and the desire to keep my options open and see what else is out there. Selfishly, I would like to continue on with Tim while dating, but I know he would not be open to that. I am also at the age where my biological clock is ticking. Has anyone else gone through something similar? How do you balance wanting something serious with